Click! The clear sound of the safety being released rang out, and at the sound, 2 supervisory soldiers instinctively turned their heads to look back. Then they saw Dua raising his rifle at them, which left them in utter shock. One of them was quick to react, immediately flipping over to take cover, but the other was too slow. The next second, bullets streamed out, piercing several holes through the supervisory soldier in an instant. Up until the moment of his death, he wore an expression of disbelief, unable to fathom that these ordinary soldiers would dare to kill a member of the supervisory team. Dua, holding his gun, was about to search for the other supervisory soldier who had dashed around the corner and into a trench, but he found his target already lying in a pool of blood, attacked by another squad of soldiers. That group of soldiers kept drawing their bayonets, stabbing the supervisory soldier over and over again in a vengeful frenzy, all the while cursing loudly. For skimping on our rations, for not caring if we live or die, for your damned arrogance. I've had enough today, I'm rebelling. To hell with it, I'll surrender to the Jekka group rather than serve you bastards any longer. Only when the screams of the supervisory soldier finally faded did the group of soldiers look up. They turned to Dua and said, "Brother, I'm sick of their shit. Let's rebel." Dua clenched his teeth audibly, nodded emphatically, and, through gritted teeth, said, "Let's rebel against them. We won't serve the Chan country government anymore. We want to live." At this moment, Dua's comrades also stood up, shouting angrily, "Enough of this. If we lose our heads, so what? It'll just leave a scar. I'm sick of eating bark and roots." The commotion attracted a large number of soldiers, who emerged from their trenches and bunkers. Hearing the shouts and roars, they too joined in the fiery uproar. "Rebel against them. We want food, we want bread. I'm done with this damn war, I want to eat." The pent-up anger and frustration of being besieged for so many days finally burst forth, and the soldiers rallied behind Dua en masse. As they advanced, the rebelling group swelled with more soldiers joining along the way, sending ripples of unrest through the entirety of Jinlao Mountain. The fact that the Chan country army stationed on Jinlao Mountain had resisted mutiny until now was testament to their strong will. After all, most of their families lived under the jurisdiction of the Chan country government, and the soldiers feared that surrendering would bring trouble to their loved ones. But as things escalated, discontent reached a breaking point, much like a torrential flood that couldn't be contained. And when the mutiny erupted, the supervisory soldiers simply couldn't suppress it, being beaten and forced into a retreat. As for the high-ranking officers' guards, facing the backlash of tens of thousands of soldiers was like a pebble in a surging tide. Thrown in, it would barely cause a ripple before ultimately being swept away, joining the ranks of the rebels. The commander of the Jinlao Mountain operations was Major General Wu Dengkai of Chan country, who was jolted awake by the noise outside and hastily went to the command center, where he received news of the soldiers' mutiny. What's going on? Wu Dengkai was dumbstruck, aware that prolonged encirclement could lead to war weariness and dissatisfaction among the troops. But he had thought at most the soldiers would surrender to the Jekka group. Now the situation seemed wrong. They were coming after the senior officers themselves. "Prepare the helicopter immediately. I need to leave." Shivering with fear, Wu Dengkai didn't dare to face the rebellious soldiers to try to appease them. Instead, he wanted to flee the scene via helicopter right away. Many officers shared his thoughts. Most high-ranking officers were from influential local families in Chan country, with virtually none having climbed their way up from the bottom. If they made it back to the Chan country government territory, most could continue indulging in wealth and luxury, unwilling to surrender to the Jekka group alongside the lowly commoners. Wu Dengkai and a group of high-ranking officers ran to the helicopter landing zone in disgrace, many regretting their actions. If they had known, they would have fled sooner, but fearing accountability from the Chan country government, they had not wanted to give up their power, resulting in their delay until this day. "They're running. Those pampered officers are trying to run." The counterattacking soldiers witnessed this scene, which only fueled their anger even more. Feeling abandoned and betrayed, the soldiers opened fire directly at the airstrip. Bullets killed many high-ranking officers who could not board the planes in time, and some who managed to get on helicopters were blown out of the slowly ascending aircraft by soldiers with rocket launchers, resulting in extremely heavy casualties on the scene. No, don't. Wu Dengkai saw a rocket propelling straight toward him just as he had boarded the helicopter, his eyes wide open like bronze bells, fear making him wet his pants. However, his life, amidst the brilliant explosion of the rocket, dissipated like fireworks regardless. Minutes later, the majority of the high-ranking officers had been slaughtered by the enraged soldiers, leaving the scene in complete disarray. 5 kilometers away from Jinlao Mountain, Jekka Group soldiers were carrying out routine stationing duties here to prevent any breakout by the Chan Country Army. Suddenly, many of the soldiers heard a flurry of footsteps. The drones also spotted a large number of ragged soldiers approaching on the ground, numbered in the hundreds. Enemy attack. The Jekka soldiers immediately readied themselves for battle. But, curiously, these soldiers were not carrying any firearms and, instead, were raising their hands high, some even waving white fabric tied to sticks. What's going on? This is surrender. The company commander stationed here gradually regained his composure, instructed his soldiers to hold their fire for now, and then relayed the message to the highest-ranking officer in the vicinity. After some time, Lu Yingying arrived at the front line accompanied by a group of high-ranking officers. She had come over today to inspect and was also arranging some logistical supplies for the area. She hadn't expected to encounter this situation. Are you looking to surrender? Lu Yingying gazed at these emaciated soldiers covered in mud and dirt, many of whom were staggering as they walked, looking as if they might collapse at any moment. We wish to surrender, but I speak not just for myself, but for all 50,000 soldiers at Jinlao Mountain. But there is one precondition to our surrender. Dua looked at Lu Yingying, his heart somewhat apprehensive, afraid of being rejected. What condition? Lu Yingying stared intently at Dua, already noting that he was not some high-ranking officer, lacking any kind of epaulets or stars on his shoulders, just an ordinary soldier. Let us eat. Let us eat to fullness. Dua expressed his demand, for only those who have experienced hunger know how blissful it is to have a full stomach. Lu Yingying was taken aback, having thought it would be something more serious. Just that, I agree to it. Without a second thought, Lu Yingying agreed immediately. A smile appeared on Dua's face, and he saluted respectfully, loudly declaring, on behalf of Chan Country's 12th Infantry Division, 5th Infantry Division, 7th Infantry Division, 3rd Armored Brigade, and 19th Mechanized Infantry Division, I, Private First Class Dua, officially surrender to the Jekka Group as of November 10th. On behalf of the Jekka Group, I accept your surrender. Go and eat. Lu Yingying smiled, knowing what they needed most at this moment, and with a wave of her hand, she instructed that they be taken to eat. An hour later, hundreds of Jekka Group logistics support vehicles rolled grandly up Jinlao Mountain without encountering any resistance along the way. Chan Country soldiers simply stood by the road, watching the convoy with longing eyes. As the support vehicles stopped and the cargo holds opened up, baskets of steaming buns, congee with meat, sausages, jams, and hot dishes and soups were brought out, and cheers filled the air instantly. Soon after, rifles were discarded in piles on the ground, turning into small mounds, as Chan Country soldiers surrendered to the Jekka soldiers in large numbers, then eagerly devoured the food with ravenous hunger. With this, the more than a month-long effort by the Chan Country government's most elite 50,000 soldiers came to an end. They surrendered to the Jekka Group in exchange for some spent artillery shells and a satisfying meal. At the same time, this meant that the last resistance force in G State had vanished. G State, the wealthy industrial state of Chan Country, officially fell under the control of the Jekka Group. When this news spread, Chan Country was shaken, Southeast Asia was shaken, the whole world was shaken. No one had expected the war to progress so rapidly. In just under a month, the Jekka Group had swept through the entirety of G State with a formidable force, killing over 10,000 enemies, capturing 50,000, and decisively determining the outcome of the conflict. Demons in Southeast Asia are on the move. G State becomes their snack. Which region will be dissected next? Beware of Jekka Group's aggressive actions. The world is being persecuted. the world needs us, and boundaries must be respected. The scale of illegal slaughter, including the inhumane phenomena found in the Jibong region of Chan Country, is shocking. Sensational headlines appeared in the news. Western media continued to slander the Jekka Group, describing their occupation of G State with various terms like illegal, aggressive, and challenging order. In contrast, Maozi and Hua Country held a much fairer stance. However, the intense media war abroad couldn't prevent the Jekka Group from proceeding with their military actions. After all, the weapon of criticism cannot replace the criticism by weapons. After conquering Jinlao Mountain and taking 50,000 elite Chan Country soldiers as prisoners, the liberated forces of the Jekka Group began entering city after city within G State. Faced with the formidable advance of the Jekka army, these cities surrendered at the first sign of trouble. Even the government and alliance forces of Chan Country and Japan, who were defeated in battle, had died or surrendered, let alone some city policemen and firefighters. How could they resist the fierce Jekka Group? Very smoothly, the Jekka Group took over the rule of G State and incorporated it into their territory. With an area of 75,000 square kilometers, a population reaching 9 million, and the largest oil and gas fields within Chan Country, as well as abundant mineral resources, G State is dotted with all kinds of factories due to these advantageous natural resources. The economic output here accounts for about 30% of Chan Country's economy. It can be said that G State's departure is akin to a major artery being severed for the Chan Country government. And after the Jekka Group swallowed G State, their strength undoubtedly surged rapidly, expanding their territory to 150,000 square kilometers and breaking the 10 million population mark, totaling 12 million people. Especially since G State is an industrial region, the war potential of the Jekka Group increased in a way no other territory could replace. Not only was the Chan Country government anxious, but Japan and the beautiful country in the Eight-Nation Group were even more in a panic. Why does the Jekka Group grow stronger with each battle, with their territory and war potential becoming increasingly terrifying? As a result, the Eight-Nation Group further increased their assistance to the Chan Country government. The more than 20,000 Japanese elite soldiers were ordered to enter the region bordering G State. This region of G State is one of the rare plains in Chan Country, and its outskirts are covered with high mountains and dense forests, a headache for the Japanese soldiers entering the area. If not for the help and guidance of the Chan Country government army, the non-combat losses would be untold. With the Chan Country government army suffering a major defeat at Jinlao Mountain and Jiwei City, their forces were weakened. Now they only surrounded G State, not daring to act rashly again, waiting for more military aid to arrive before launching an offensive. Meanwhile, taking advantage of this time, the Jekka Group was busy digesting the newly acquired territory of G State, as time quietly passed during both sides' preparations for battle. In Monday City at the Fumin Breeding Farm, underground poisonous insect cultivation base. In the brightly lit underground environment, Su Jie sat cross-legged on an empty space, surrounded by a massive amount of spirit stones and blood marrow crystals. Like a tidal breath that was continuously brewing within Su Jie's body, countless spirit stones and blood marrow crystals were vaporizing spiritual energy. This abundant spiritual energy was ceaselessly converging into Su Jie's body, aiding his transformation. The breath inside his body climbed more and more, like a volcano on the brink of eruption. Above his head, luminescent light diffused, encircling Su Jie's body like a splendid galaxy carrying surging waves of spiritual power. Gradually, the luminescent light turned into wisps of clouds. These clouds were made of spiritual power. Su Jie's spiritual energy had turned to a liquid state when he advanced to the 6th level of Yunling realm, and now it had gone a step further, reaching the level of external gas state, and these clouds were the gaseous spiritual energy of Su Jie. The transformation from liquid spiritual energy to external gaseous spiritual energy was the hallmark of advancing from the Yunling realm 9th level to 10 levels. It also represented that the disciple of this realm had grasped the threefold changes of spiritual energy, achieving the completion of Yunling realm. Boom, boom, boom. The clouds of spiritual energy turned from white to black, accompanied by thunderous rumbling, and bolts of purple cloud heavenly thunder flashed like silver snakes in the void. Su Jie's purple cloud heavenly thunder operated autonomously, and his divine soul also slowly elevated and transformed. The strength of the flesh always nourishes the soul. Those who focus solely on one may encounter hidden dangers. Cultivation of both the soul and the body is the right choice for most cultivators. Crack! Suddenly, the clouds around Su Jie parted, and above his soul, a crystal-clear portal emanating a faint blue light formed. The luminescent galaxy transformed into a crystalline gateway. Su Jie felt a sense of change in his heart, sensing that the ancient mirror was trembling slightly. This blue light portal opened slowly, and through it, one could vaguely see a brilliant sea of light, countless colorful photons twinkling like stars in the quiet night, radiating a captivating glow. Ancient mirror! Su Jie was greatly shaken by the sudden change of the ancient mirror, and it left him somewhat perplexed. In the past, the ancient mirror had only provided passage between two worlds. The second change occurred when his divine soul achieved the primordial spirit, and it turned into a phantom to merge into his soul. This was the third transformation of the ancient mirror. Su Jie sensed that within that blue portal, there was an extraordinarily enticing aroma that called out to him. Unlike any material fragrance he had known, it seemed to possess the power to purify the soul and usher an unprecedented sense of tranquility. Could this be the legendary Sea of Heaven? Su Jie felt a vague sense of familiarity, and a bold idea surfaced in his heart. However, this Sea of Heaven was completely different from the heavenly Tao he had encountered in the Tianyuan world before. In the presence of that heavenly Tao, Su Jie's primordial spirit was but a benthic microbe in the vast ocean. In comparison to the heavenly Tao there, his primordial spirit was like contrasting the vast sea to a droplet of water, utterly insignificant. Even if his primordial spirit was within it, he could only borrow the power of the heavenly Tao for a mere few seconds. If he overstayed, his entire primordial spirit would be obliterated, soul scattered and extinguished. But inside the blue portal opened by the ancient mirror, Su Jie felt the familiar heavenly Tao. Yet the impression it gave was entirely different. So this is the heavenly Tao of Blue Star. Feeling the different intensity of that heavenly Tao, Su Jie instantly understood. This was definitely the heavenly Tao of Blue Star, or perhaps the heavenly Tao of this part of the solar system. The heavenly Tao was not solely derived from spiritual energy. It was more like a set of rules or a will, akin to the turning of the sun and moon, the change of seasons. The heavenly Tao was also a rule but sat atop natural laws, a macroscopic existence that was unfathomable. Spiritual energy was a form of energy, and although indeed miraculous, Blue Star too had energy, so it was not surprising for a heavenly Tao to emerge from it. With this realization, Su Jie was greatly shaken. He closed his eyes tightly, took a deep breath, and his primordial spirit slowly approached the blue portal. With just an approach, as Su Jie's primordial spirit touched the colorful photons inside, he felt a deafening thunderclap explode within his divine soul, and both his body and soul underwent an unspeakable purification and elevation. Simultaneously, Su Jie's primordial spirit directly entered the portal, akin to a fish swimming freely within the sea of heaven, basking in immense comfort and pleasure. It was unknown whether it was because Su Jie originated from Blue Star that this heavenly Tao recognized him more, or because the heavenly Tao of Blue Star was not as overbearing and powerful as that of Tianyuan world, allowing his divine soul to swim freely within. In comparison, while Su Jie's primordial spirit was merely a microbe in the face of Tianyuan world's heavenly Tao, here in the heavenly Tao of Blue Star, his primordial spirit evolved to that of a little fish, at least able to move freely without being expelled in mere seconds. Pop! Suddenly, Su Jie's primordial spirit touched one of the colorful photons. The photon instantly merged with Su Jie's primordial spirit, a sensation 1,000,000 times more refreshing than eating ice cream on a hot day. Su Jie's primordial spirit grew in size as if it had consumed 10 pounds of tonic pills, expanding both in height and width. Originally resembling an infant in form, his primordial spirit had now grown a minuscule 0.1 millimeters. It seemed insignificant, yet it signified the strengthening of the primordial spirit, and this was just from absorbing a single tiny colorful photon. Right then, Su Jie's eyes shone with excitement, his heart pounding with exuberance. Even though he had no clue what these photons were, he knew that he was set on devouring them that day. Gurgle, gurgle. Swiftly, Su Jie's primordial spirit swam through the sea of heaven, chasing and devouring those colorful photons. The dazzling light spots moved erratically without pattern, and they zoomed around swiftly, instinctively evading when approached. Far from discouraged, Su Jie put his all into chasing and consuming those photons, with his primordial spirit growing ever taller and larger, and his swimming speed increasing, allowing him to eat even more photons. 1 minute passed, 10 minutes passed, an hour passed. Su Jie was like the snake in that game of snake, chasing after the light spots in the sea of heaven, and as he devoured them, his body continually grew longer. In just an hour's time, Su Jie's primordial spirit had grown to a height of 1 meter, doubling its size from before. It was known that the next evolution of the primordial spirit was for it to gradually grow from an infant form to a full-fledged adult, perfectly unifying with the physical body. That realm of divine soul is called God unification, signifying the unity of spirit and flesh, with the primordial spirit corresponding one-to-one with the body. It was a domain only accessible at the Taoist platform realm. Through Su Jie's frenzied devouring, his primordial spirit had swelled to this extent in no time, bringing him immense joy as the primordial spirit now had full facial features and limbs, capable of a wide range of expressions. Boom! Just as Su Jie was reveling in his delight, the blue portal seemed to reach its closing time, and the void around the portal started to distort, as if about to be utterly torn apart by this force. That's quick! Su Jie felt extremely regretful internally, though he had not had his fill yet. Once the portal closed, his primordial spirit would be trapped permanently in the sea of heaven. Without daring to delay, Su Jie swiftly maneuvered his primordial spirit back out of the blue portal. Accompanied by an even louder roar, the portal closed completely, with all the flowing light and colorful photons vanishing. Su Jie's primordial spirit returned to his physical body, and he slowly opened his eyes. Looking at the now closed portal and the ancient mirror quieting down in his mind, he grew increasingly curious about the origin of this ancient mirror. It could actually manipulate the heavenly Tao on Blue Star's side, opening a portal to the Sea of Heaven, letting him sneak in for a feast. Su Jie felt the ancient mirror calming down again and tried to use it to help open the Sea of Heaven in Blue Star, but nothing happened. Forget it. There will always be a chance in the future. Shaking his head, Su Jie knew that the ancient mirror had an extraordinary origin. He was already very fortunate to be able to use the Two Realms shuttle gate. As for more, that would depend on fate. Putting away the ancient mirror, Su Jie stretched out his hand and pressed it on the floor, his divine soul power surging through. The concrete crumbled like a collapsing sandcastle, continuously turning into dust and collapsing downwards. Su Jie's primordial spirit was now 1 meter tall, and its strength had greatly increased. In the past, his primordial spirit couldn't achieve this. Let the thunder come. Su Jie looked up, and above the ground at Fumin Breeding Farm, thunder burst forth from clear skies. A massive thunderbolt struck a several meters tall giant bronze statue, instantly causing it to crack all over. The nearby staff who came out to check on the noise were all tongue-tied. Such clear sky thunderbolts were rare. In the underground base, Su Jie greatly enjoyed this scene, the power of purple cloud heavenly thunder determined by the divine soul. As his primordial spirit had strengthened, so did the intensity of the purple cloud heavenly thunder. In the Yunling realm, I want to see who dares to clash with me. Su Jie stood up from the ground, feeling the perfect and flawless spiritual power inside his body, and a smug smile appeared on his face. In the 10 levels of the Yunling realm, a cultivator at this stage is like a bucket filled with water, unable to absorb any more spiritual energy. Of course, because cultivators have different talents and opportunities, even those at the same realm can have varying amounts of internal spiritual power. With Su Jie's purple cloud thunder body constitution, his spiritual power was much more condensed and intense, 7 to 8 times that of a regular disciple at the same realm. If you include the cultivation techniques, magic artifacts, talismans, etc., the gap in strength at the same realm would be even wider. It's time to start making the breakthrough to the secret realm. Su Jie murmured to himself. His spiritual power could no longer increase, and disciples at the 10 levels of the Yunling realm were all preparing to advance to the secret realm. But as easy as it is to say, it is difficult to achieve. Throughout history, how many disciples were stuck at this stage, unable to take the final step until their death? Advancing to the secret realm depends on talent, comprehension, and opportunity. Sometimes, an epiphany can set one on the path of the secret realm, but more often, it remains elusive. Those who could break through to the secret realm could truly be considered exceptional among men. Su Jie already had a plan in mind for how to break through to the secret realm. Secret realm, I wonder what kind of power it holds. In Su Jie's palm, an elixir appeared with red fire patterns and golden flames burning on the surface, carrying an immense aura. This was the Rainbow Gathering Flame Pill, a reward given by the sect master to Su Jie, Ning Xinyue, and Xiao Fengyuan after they captured Qi Shijian. This elixir could help increase the success rate of advancing to the secret realm. Su Jie had treasured it, planning to consume it when he reached the 10 levels of the Yunling realm. Now that the time had come, coupled with Su Jie's Purple Cloud Thunderbody and Divine Soul Primordial Spirit, the advancement to the secret realm would be difficult for others, but not so much for Su Jie. Considering the environment needed for advancing to the secret realm, Blue Star was not very suitable, so Su Jie planned to return to Tianyuan World to make the breakthrough. It was just right that Blue Star needed to consolidate the Jekka group, assimilate the newly absorbed G-State, recruit new troops for training, and allow factories to produce various weapons, all of which needed time. The 8-nation group was also reallocating forces. Everyone knew this was just the calm before the storm, and the next great war would soon arrive. Once I reach the secret realm, I can have my own power and properties in Ghost Ridge Palace. Then I can find some good things to prepare for the next war. Su Jie thought to himself, suddenly sensing a chilling presence drifting over, like the sinister ghostly air exhaled from the 9 nether hell, causing one to shiver. Su Jie's eyebrows twitched, a gleam of joy flashing across his face as he quickly walked to another area covered by a formation. All things are equal, open. Following Su Jie's manipulation of the spell, the portable array map array covering this area was activated, and Su Jie stepped inside. Within the array, a woman dressed in a wedding dress was sitting with her eyes closed. Her face was as pale as snow, her features breathtakingly beautiful but carrying a chilling sensation. It was the 5th grade wedding dress ghost Han Ruyan. Around Han Ruyan, just like Su Jie moments ago, numerous beads were arranged. However, instead of spirit stones and blood marrow crystals like Su Jie's arrangement, this place had primordial spirit pearls filled with fear energy. As Su Jie had advanced to the 10 levels of the Yunling realm, Han Ruyan was also making her final breakthrough, advancing from a 5th grade fierce ghost to a 6th grade fierce ghost. At this moment, Han Ruyan's blood-colored wedding dress was more eerie than ever, the blood light spreading out, dyeing every inch of space red. The phoenix crown on her head was exceedingly bright, like a round of bright moonlight, casting gentle rays of light. However, if one looked closely, the pearls on the crown showed pupil after pupil, endlessly layered, luring one into a deep illusion. Sizzle! The 1,000-handed centipede crawled out of Su Jie's sleeve, seeing the transformation of the ghost bride and looking back at Su Jie while chirping. It seemed to complain that it had arrived earlier, yet had not yet advanced to the 6 refinements poisonous insect, while this woman had already taken a step ahead. You're close too. Taking over G-State's territory will make breeding more insects even more convenient. Su Jie laughed and patted the head of the 1,000-handed centipede, his gaze meeting Han Ruyan's now open eyes. Boom! The blood-colored wedding dress rustled loudly, undulating unpredictably, like thousands of layers of blood waves piling up, the surging yin qi bursting forth like a high tide. Even the array could not block the infiltration of this weird power. Lights in the underground base turned red, as if countless bloodshot eyes had opened, watching the impurities and mortals of this world. The ground had turned into soft, decaying soil, making it feel like one was stepping on rotten flesh. Stalks of hair-like plants grew from it, unconsciously dragging one down into the marsh below, sending shivers down the spine. Husband, I've reached the 6th grade. With a curve of her lips, Han Ruyan actually smiled. Su Jie could feel that his contract with the ghost bride was even more solid, as if they were closely interlocked structures. It seemed that Su Jie's feeding had been very effective. His palm touching Han Ruyan's hair, the ghost bride remained quiet without any objections, even moving slightly closer to make it more comfortable for Su Jie to touch her, half leaning on him. Su Jie bowed his head and kissed Han Ruyan's lips. In such intimate contact, Su Jie's primordial spirit was cleansed, becoming more condensed. This was a characteristic of the ghost bride in front of him, the heavenly spinning jade light body, which could enhance a part of his primordial spirit. After a long while, they parted lips. Han Ruyan looked at Su Jie and slowly confessed, "Husband, you really do like to take advantage, just like before." There seemed to be a hint of playfulness in Han Ruyan's tone. "Oh, your emotions seem to have recovered a lot. But what do you mean, just like before?" Su Jie looked at Han Ruyan with some surprise. She had always been cold and seemingly devoid of human emotions. He hadn't expected that after upgrading to a 6th grade Fierce Ghost, it would also bring back her human emotions. Although still quite different from a normal person, the progress was simply too great compared to before. "I don't know. I just feel like you've seen my body before. I also remembered my name and some fragments of my life." Han Ruyan tilted her head, then said this. Su Jie's expression stiffened as he coughed. "Cough, cough. You might be mistaken. Your husband is a gentleman." Inwardly, Su Jie was secretly shocked. After the ghost bride's upgrade, her memories from her life were also gradually resurfacing. He had never seen a fierce ghost with memories from their life before. At most, they would have habits from when they were alive. This was the first time Su Jie had encountered someone like Han Ruyan. Perhaps this is the special nature of the heavenly spinning jade light body, worthy of a ghost king who can command the 3 realms and oversee all spirits. Thinking of the ghost bride's background and origins, Su Jie was no longer surprised. Han Ruyan herself was an extraordinary being. Su Jie pondered inwardly, asking about more important matters, pointing at the color-changing tubes. "Is this your ability after advancing to the 6th grade? Thousand Blade Soul Eye. A part of the abilities I mastered after my upgrade." As Han Ruyan spoke, a black moon appeared above her, silent and vast like a gigantic obsidian suspended under the sky dome, illuminating the entire underground poisonous insect's base with a sinister black and red light, seemingly harboring a bizarre power slowly emanating within. Su Jie looked up at the black moon, feeling a deep and oppressive power. Inside the black moon, numerous eyes stared back at him, instilling a deep unease and fear. Swoosh! Suddenly, the black moon split open from top to bottom, like an eye opening, revealing layers of blood-red pupils, and a surge of intense blood light enveloped down. Su Jie's primordial spirit instinctively became alert, as if the black moon wanted to imprint something on his body, a terrifying curse. Su Jie's primordial spirit was very strong and could spontaneously eliminate negative states from his body, including curses. Although the effect of this black moon curse was unknown, Su Jie's primordial spirit had easily defeated a 5th grade Fierce Ghost before, and now that it had been significantly strengthened, it was understandable how powerful it could be to make Su Jie's primordial spirit feel alarmed. Han Ruyan did not take action against Su Jie, but instead looked at the ground beside him, where a stone pillar stood. As the black moon's blood eyes gazed upon it, countless tiny blades burst forth from within, instantly disintegrating the stone pillar. The sky was filled with tiny, blood-red blades fluttering in the wind, like beautiful bloody roses, beautiful yet extremely lethal. ZZZ. The 1,000-handed centipede beside Su Jie chirped twice, the blade's disintegrating and cutting ability posing a significant threat to it, which could transform into a swarm of centipedes. Amazing! Su Jie's mouth gaped wide, slapping his thigh in excitement. The move shown by Han Ruyan was just a part of the Ghost Bride's abilities. and she was extraordinarily powerful after her upgrade to the 6th grade. I'm glad I could help my husband. Han Ruyan's gaze withdrew, and the black moon disappeared. Now we're more secure in the Tianyuan world. Su Jie felt joy inside, as when he had advanced to the secret realm, having Han Ruyan by his side to guard him greatly increased his safety. Are we going back to Tianyuan? Han Ruyan saw the open transfer gate, leading to the familiar Tianyuan world. Yes, we need to make a trip back. Su Jie nodded with the ghost bride he was planning to bring back. Nightmare Park was still operational, maintaining some fierce ghosts there, while also setting up corresponding formations to ensure nothing went awry. Wherever the master goes, I will follow. Han Ruyan naturally linked her arm with Su Jie's, and together they stepped through the transfer gate. Tianyuan World, Ghost Ridge Palace. In front of a residence at Ghost Ridge Palace, it was incredibly lively at this moment. This belonged to Xiao Fengyuan, and by morning, the area was already bustling with activity. Apart from a large number of disciples who were there to watch the excitement, many of Ghost Ridge Palace's managers were also present in their finest attire. Inside the residence, at the banquet, all kinds of fine wines and delicacies were available, a collection of rarities from both land and sea. The grand banquet and the scale of the event were all because Xiao Fengyuan, a disciple of renown within Ghost Ridge Palace, had successfully advanced to the secret realm 3 days ago. Each promotion within the secret realm was a significant affair for Ghost Ridge Palace, as this level of power served as one of its pillars. Because of the sect war, the scale of the event was reduced. Otherwise, it would have been even more extravagant in the past. Master Zhang Pingkong from the refining pavilion presents a gift of 1/8 treasures wood and a pair of golden brilliance cheilants. Chen's trading house presents a gift of a low-grade advanced magical artifact, the Double Dragon Fan, and a copy of the Yen Gui Stepbook. Manager Su Hu from Yogu Garden presents a gift of a jug of Heavenly Palace golden pearl water. The old housekeeper at the door, like listing menu items, continuously noted down the noble guests who were present to offer gifts, announcing them loudly. This not only gave face to the host family but also made the guests feel valued. Suddenly, a slight disturbance arose in front of the residence, and a group of disciples watching the excitement respectfully made way. A man with the stride of a dragon and the gaze of a tiger approached. Congratulations to Brother Xiao on his promotion. I have come to see this for myself. Su Jie brought out the spiritual materials he had prepared and said with a smile. The old housekeeper dared not neglect him. His survival in the demon cultivation sect of Ghost Ridge Palace depended on his judgment. He clearly recognized all the important figures, lest he unwittingly offend someone and die without knowing how. And Su Jie was undoubtedly an important person in Ghost Ridge Palace, who after capturing Qi Shijian, was hailed as the #1 among the current disciples of Ghost Ridge Palace. The esteemed disciple of Elder Qiu, Brother Su Jie, presents a gift of 3 spirit stone bamboos, a string of sea jade pearls. Inside the residence, upon hearing the announcement of his gift, Xiao Fengyuan, who had been greeting guests, quickly came out. As soon as he saw Su Jie, Xiao Fengyuan laughed heartily, saying, Brother Su, you've come out of seclusion. I left my retreat early just so I wouldn't miss your promotion banquet. Congratulations to Brother Xiao on successfully advancing to the secret realm. From now on the sea is vast for the fish to leap, and the sky is high for the birds to soar. Just yesterday, Su Jie had returned to Tianyuan World with Han Ruyan for this very banquet. As they spoke, Su Jie also glanced at Xiao Fengyuan a few times, noticing the robust aura of the other party, which compared to the past was like the difference between mud and solid rock, indicative of the cultivation of the secret realm. I also managed to break through with the aid of the Rainbow Gathering Flame Pill by sheer luck. With Brother Su's strength and talent, it won't be long before I'll be attending your promotion banquet. Xiao Fengyuan seemed to have noticed Su Jie's advancement to the 10 levels of Yunling Realm, evident from the complete and flawless aura that only those at the 10 levels of Yunling Realm possessed. Let's hope so. Let's not stand at the door any longer, Su Jie. Please come inside. The two entered the residence, and the first thing Su Jie saw was Ning Xinyue, who was blatantly enjoying the food and drink at a table. Upon seeing Su Jie, the girl even made faces at him, then gestured towards a spot not too far away. Su Jie then saw his master, Taoist Chiu, along with a number of elders also present at the event. For a promotion banquet like this, the elders would also give some face to the newly promoted within the secret realm. Even if they might not personally attend, they would have their disciples send gifts. Master! Su Jie approached Taoist Chiu and greeted him. Not bad, the 10 levels are fully achieved. Have you consumed the Rainbow Gathering Flame Pill? Taoist Chiu surveyed Su Jie and asked. Shaking his head, Su Jie responded, Not yet, but I'm planning to take it soon. Swallow it as soon as possible to advance to the secret realm. Taoist Chiu's voice deepened as he spoke. A big battle is about to happen, and the sect urgently needs the power of those in the secret realm. A thought stirred in Su Jie's mind, and he asked, Master, have we made any progress with the Heavenly Soul Sect? Indeed, a few days ago Elder Tang brought a group from the Heavenly Soul Sect to Ghost Ridge Palace, and both sides are currently discussing the joint venture. If everything goes well, the alliance should be formed. Taoist Chiu nodded slightly. Now more than ever, reliant on the defensive advantage alone, Ghost Ridge Palace was struggling to withstand the siege of several righteous sects. If they could get the Demon Cultivation Sect of Heavenly Soul Sect to join the battle, that would greatly relieve the pressure on Ghost Ridge Palace and possibly scatter the surrounding righteous sects. That's great news. Su Jie felt exhilarated by this, knowing that if Ghost Ridge Palace fell, he would be left to wander aimlessly, pursued by the righteous path with nowhere to settle. Ghost Ridge Palace is now Su Jie's biggest backer, and he naturally hopes that it will continue to exist, offering him protection. Without having grown strong himself, the protection of a major power is very important. In any case, you should strive to advance to the secret realm as soon as possible, without dragging your feet by polishing your Tao heart and invincible path, which are far less important than strength. Your strength will definitely be needed on the battlefield eventually. Don't squander your potential and die an early death due to an accident. I've seen too many cases like this. Elder Chiu repeatedly admonished, earnestly advising Su Jie to make a breakthrough soon. Master, I won't drag it out. I'll strive to ascend to the secret realm within a week. Su Jie spoke assertively, confident in his ability to break through within a week, then chatted with Taoist Chiu a bit more before heading over to Ning Xinyue's table. How can a girl like you eat so much? Don't you understand what it means to be ladylike? Leave some for me. Su Jie unceremoniously seized the large pork knuckle that Ning Xinyue was about to pick up and began to relish it. Ning Xinyue glared with her cute almond eyes, quite peeved. Can't you go eat at another table? Why are you robbing me of my food? No, bullying others is no fun. It's much more amusing to bully you. Su Jie chuckled cheekily, his chopsticks reaching out once more to snatch the delicacies in front of Ning Xinyue. Ning Xinyue got angry, her chopsticks flashing rapidly, leaving afterimages on the table that dazzled onlookers. Your strength has increased. Suddenly, Su Jie found something odd. This little girl's strength was outrageously strong, and somehow Su Jie's hand speed was slower than hers. Wait, something's not right, seriously not right. Su Jie felt increasingly that something was off, and said with surprise, You haven't really? Still want to bully me? Now I am the stronger one, okay? Remember to call me Elder Ning from now on. Ning Xinyue arrogantly lifted her chin, transmitting to Su Jie via divine sense the secret that if it weren't for the crowd, she could have given Su Jie a small shock of the secret realm right then. When did you make a breakthrough? Su Jie was truly astonished. It made sense for Xiao Fengyuan to make a breakthrough, as he had long been at the 10 levels of Yunling realm with a profound foundation. Under the influence of the Rainbow Gathering Flame Pill, the breakthrough came naturally. But Ning Xinyue, this girl, had been weaker in cultivation than Su Jie, and now she had caught up, reaching the secret realm first. I haven't wasted any time during your retreat. I've been searching for all kinds of heavenly materials and earthly treasures every day here, and found quite a few good treasures with the Tianqi 8 diagrams plate. Ning Xinyue also had her own fortuitous encounters. Su Jie guessed she must have consumed some kind of spirit fruit, which caused her cultivation to soar so rapidly. a method that Su Jie couldn't learn. Although that Tianqi 8 diagrams plate could locate treasures, it was also a gold-devouring beast, and to pinpoint a treasure it would consume who knows how many spirit stones. Ning Xinyue, the little rich girl, didn't care, but Su Jie didn't want to spend a huge amount of spirit stones on such an uncertain opportunity. You're just lucky. But how come there hasn't been any news about your promotion? Didn't you inform the sect? I don't want to say. Anyway, the sect's elders can't tell anyway, and I have a special magic skill for hiding my cultivation. When it comes to fighting, if the enemy thinks I'm only at the Yunling realm, I'll definitely give them a surprise. Ning Xinyue divulged her plan, quite smugly. She managed to fool the elders by practicing some concealment magic skill. She had previously disguised herself as a newcomer to join Ghost Ridge Palace. Now having reached the secret realm, she still could conceal it securely. If she hadn't voluntarily revealed it, neither Su Jie nor any of the present elders would have realized that this girl had already attained the cultivation of the secret realm. Sai, I don't know who taught you. Such a good girl becoming so insidious. Really, it's hard to learn to be good in the demon sect, but all too easy to learn bad. Su Jie lamented. Luckily, he would break through to the secret realm in at most a week, and Ning Xinyue would only get to strut her stuff for that week. A week later, Su Jie would surpass her. You think you're the only one to blame for me turning out this way? Ning Xinyue rolled her eyes, huffing. I learned all this from you. You're always thinking about how to trick people. Of course, I had to pick up a few tricks too. Nonsense. I'm such a righteous and magnanimous person. Don't slander me. Tui, shameless. If you're a good person, then there are no bad people in this world. The two bantered back and forth, never stopping their movements, joyously feasting at the banquet. 2 hours later, the banquet had mostly come to an end, and Xiao Fengyuan had finished speaking. Just when everyone was preparing to leave, some uninvited guests suddenly arrived and appeared at the banquet. We heard that a disciple of your esteemed sect has ascended to the secret realm today. We from the Heavenly Soul sect also wish to offer a gift to celebrate the friendship between our two sects. About a dozen people strode in. They were all demon cultivators from the Heavenly Soul sect, some elders and some disciples there to gain experience. The one who had spoken was a middle-aged man with an eerie presence, wearing a nearly floor-length black robe. His left eye was normal while his right eye was inlaid with a primordial spirit pearl, seemingly absorbing the fear energy within his own body, giving him a bizarre appearance. That is the Supreme Elder from the Heavenly Soul sect, named Zhao Lianshan. Ning Xinyue whispered to Su Jie, realizing he might not be up to date with Ghost Ridge Palace's recent affairs after his retreat, and provided an explanation for him. Su Jie didn't say anything, his gaze fixed on one of the Ghost Ridge Palace personnel, a cold-faced elder. He was an acquaintance of Su Jie. It was none other than the Heavenly Soul sect elder Zhou Minzhen, who had instigated the tragedy in East Victory City and who had created the Ghost Bride. Zhou Minzhen was also staring at Su Jie, his face revealing a sinister smile. Su Jie instantly understood in his heart that the other party was most likely here because of the Ghost Bride issue. If you are here to celebrate, I welcome you, of course, but today is a special day for me, so let's not make things unpleasant here, he said. Xiao Yuanshan, having also experienced the East Victory City incident, immediately sensed that Zhou Minzhen's arrival was hostile upon seeing him in the crowd. Haha, I'm afraid that won't be easy. Zhao Lianshan smiled faintly, a newly promoted member of the secret realm who had at most refined one organ. He didn't take him seriously at all. His piercing gaze swept over the crowd and fixed on Su Jie. This must be Su Jie, the most outstanding disciple of the Ghost Ridge Palace, right? Don't you want to explain what happened in East Victory City? Without expression, Su Jie set down his chopsticks and rose from his seat. Elder Zhao by East Victory City, are you referring to the unprovoked attack by your Heavenly Soul sect on us? Considering our sects are about to join forces, I shall temporarily refrain from pursuing that matter. Zhao Lianshan was taken aback, clearly not expecting Su Jie to talk back like this under such circumstances, and to openly criticize their Heavenly Soul sect first. Boy, You disrupted our plans and snatched away my ghost bride. Do you mean to say that this is our fault? Zhou Minzhen stepped out, his eyes gleaming with a cold, murderous intent. If looks could kill, Su Jie would have no flesh left by now. We were in East Victory City to carry out the mission of capturing the traitor Qi Shijian. It was your so-called Elder Zhong Shiguan who attacked us first, and moreover, it was utterly shameless, using his superior strength against the weak. Your people wanted to kill me. Surely we aren't just expected to stretch out our necks to the blade without even allowing us to resist. Sometimes I really wonder if your Heavenly Soul sect is deliberately trying to hinder our mission, wanting to protect the fugitive traitor Qi Shijian. Su Jie walked up to Zhou Minzhen, his gaze unwavering as he looked him in the eye, and declared loudly, "If you disagree, we can have the sect master come to bear witness and search our souls to see who is lying." These words instantly made Zhou Minzhen's expression incredibly ugly. Because what Su Jie said was true. It was indeed Zhong Shiguan who had attacked the demon cultivator first. Zhong Shiguan had indeed told Zhou Minzhen about it afterward. Although his main target at the time was to snatch away Han Ruyan and attacking Su Jie was just to silence him, it was indeed his people who attacked first, and there was no denying it. What a sharp-tongued kid. Zhao Lianshan, watching Zhou Minzhen fall into a speechless state, spoke with a sinking tone. Regardless of the causes of the incident, the Ghost Bride is a fierce ghost cultivated by an elder of our Heavenly Soul sect. If you return her, this matter can be considered over. Speaking, Zhao Lianshan's gaze never left Su Jie. The intangible aura of a senior secret realm member was enough to make a Yunling realm disciple shiver intensely with fear. "Humph, Elder Zhao, that statement is mistaken," Su Jie retorted. Just then, a figure appeared in front of Su Jie. Taoist Qiu, his eyes sharp like venomous snakes, looked at Zhao Lianshan with a smug yet cheerless smile. "How can the cause of the matter be ignored? Right and wrong must be clearly distinguished. No one should expect to humiliate my disciple so easily. Where did you get the face to do that?" Zhao Lianshan's primordial spirit pearl in his right eye rotated slightly, dense runes emerging upon it, locking onto Taoist Qiu as a deep, abyss-like yin qi enveloped it, his black robe fluttering without wind. Fine snake scales appeared on Taoist Qiu's neck, and from within his sleeves, a myriad of colorful snakes peeked out, hissing and flicking their tongues. The aura of the two senior elders clashed, causing the surrounding bluestone pavement to crack and split. The guests nearby swiftly backed away, and those who were slow to retreat had blood spilling from their mouths and noses, their faces filled with terror. Behind Taoist Qiu, several elders of the Ghost Ridge Palace who had been attending the banquet rose to their feet. Even those who did not get along with Taoist Qiu would still need to stand united in the face of an outsider's bullying, at least in such a public setting. Zhou Minzhen also took a few elders of the Heavenly Soul sect and moved behind Zhao Lianshan. The two groups faced each other across the distance. The atmosphere was extremely tense and solemn, as if a great battle could break out at any moment. Su Jie looked at the back of Taoist Qiu, feeling somewhat touched. Although Taoist Qiu was somewhat harsh on ordinary disciples, he had nothing but praise for him, and at this moment he had stepped up to take the pressure off Su Jie. Bang! Just as the tension escalated, a figure descended from the sky. "All of you, cease at once," a stern voice commanded, as Tang Peiqing appeared between the two parties, preventing a potential battle from erupting. "Elder Tang, these people from the Heavenly Soul sect came out of nowhere to trouble my disciple. Surely our Ghost Ridge Palace isn't so weak as to be trampled upon by outsiders, right?" Upon seeing Tang Peiqing, the most senior elder of the Ghost Ridge Palace, Taoist Qiu breathed a sigh of relief. He didn't want to pick a fight with Zhao Lianshan for no good reason, not because he feared defeat, but because he didn't want to affect the grand plan of alliance between Ghost Ridge Palace and Heavenly Soul sect. "Elder Tang, it turns out your high disciple is quite remarkable, snatching away a fierce ghost cultivated by an elder of our Heavenly Soul sect and now refusing to return her." Zhao Lianshan tempered his aura, his words tinged with displeasure. "Tsk. Something belonging to an elder being snatched by a disciple is embarrassing to mention. I would feel ashamed to speak up on behalf of that elder." A quietly muttered, crisp voice arose, and the assembled guests bowed their heads, struggling to hold back their laughter. Zhao Lianshan's face twitched as he scanned the crowd. Who's speaking? Look, the more we debate, the clearer the truth becomes. This is everyone's true feeling. Su Jie mentally gave Ning Xinyue a thumbs up. Once these words were spoken, many voices of agreement immediately resonated around him. Exactly. You from the Heavenly Soul sect attacked first, yet you blame us for stealing things. Is there any logic to that? Secret Realm elders attacking Yunling Realm disciples is clearly bullying the weak. Even if something was stolen, it serves them right. Who told them to break the rules first by attacking our disciples? If faults were committed, it was you who were first at fault. How could you blame it on our disciples? These guests were all from the Ghost Ridge Palace, and since Su Jie also held the moral high ground, they naturally sided with him. Zhao Lianshan, faced with the diverse opinions voiced around him, grew visibly angrier and said through gritted teeth to Tang Peiqing, Elder Tang, I came here out of a shared vision and trust towards your Ghost Ridge Palace, to discuss our grand alliance. Are you really going to let this small matter jeopardize the bigger picture? Tang Peiqing felt a sinking feeling in his heart. His worst fears were materializing. Uniting with the Heavenly Soul sect was a matter of life and death for the Ghost Ridge Palace. If today's issue caused the alliance with the Heavenly Soul sect to fail, how could he explain it to the sect master? Su Jie, hearing this, knew the other party wanted to exert pressure and promptly communicated with Ning Xinyue using divine sense. Ning Xinyue nodded her little head, her bright eyes sparkling as she voiced out using a special technique. Uniting with our Ghost Ridge Palace is literally saving your Heavenly Soul sect's life. I can't believe your Heavenly Soul sect doesn't understand the principle that, when the lips are gone, the teeth feel cold. If our Ghost Ridge Palace is exterminated, those righteous sects, having freed their hands and gathered strength, will be next in destroying your Heavenly Soul sect. With your Heavenly Soul sect's brazen and arrogant style in Qingzhou, do you really think you could deceive those righteous sects? Think about how you were defeated and expelled from your mountain gate in Jingzhou. If it weren't for our Ghost Ridge Palace drawing fire, your Heavenly Soul sect would probably have to relive another sect destruction. And by then, you might not have the strength to flee to another state house. This voice echoed throughout the mansion. Although it was unclear who exactly was speaking, once these words were said, everyone started nodding in agreement. That's right. It's not their Ghost Ridge Palace that's begging here. If the Ghost Ridge Palace is extinguished, there's no good end for the Heavenly Soul sect either. Zhao Lianshan was infuriated beyond measure and really wanted to sweep his sleeves and leave the Ghost Ridge Palace with his team, no longer talking about any cooperation. But the remarks just now were not without reason. Since he had brought his team to the Ghost Ridge Palace, it indicated he wanted to ensure the success of the alliance. They had not yet agreed. It was only that the conditions were not yet settled. If he directly refused to join hands with the Ghost Ridge Palace, once the Ghost Ridge Palace's mountain gate was breached, the Heavenly Soul sect, barely established in Qingzhou, would likely face utter destruction, attacked by those allied righteous sects. Of course, he understood the principle of when the lips are gone, the teeth feel cold. Conversely, if the two demon sects united and supported each other, they might be able to continue their sect's legacy in Qingzhou. Su Jie, at this moment, patted his chest and declared loudly, If you want me to return the wedding dress ghost, that was something I snatched with my own skills. When Zhou Minzhen from your Heavenly Soul sect surrounded us back then, he certainly didn't consider the long-standing friendship between our two sections. The members from the Heavenly Soul sect knew they were in the wrong, and by now they were no longer as aggressive as they had been at the beginning. Only Zhou Minzhen felt deeply reluctant. The wedding dress ghost was something he had painstakingly nurtured, and it had cost him a great deal of effort to find this 1 in 10,000 ghost king. To just hand it over to Su Jie. His heart ached unbearable, and he was unwilling to let it go. Thus, Zhou Minzhen approached Tang Peiqing and proposed, Elder Tang, we all are demon cultivators. Talking about reason and truth is something those from the righteous sect would do. We demon cultivators believe only in strength. This is a personal grievance between me and Su Jie. Why don't we settle it by a competition? Whoever wins gets the wedding dress ghost. How about it? Tang Peiqing didn't say anything, but instead looked at Su Jie. Su Jie was about to respond when Taoist Chiu coldly said, "Good. You, a secret realm cultivator, want to compete against my Yunling realm disciple? You've got some nerve. How about this? I'll compete against you. If I lose, I'll even throw in a top-grade poisonous insect." Zhou Minzhen looked at Taoist Chiu, and without even competing, knew he was far inferior. Having seen Taoist Chiu confront Zhao Lianshan without falling short in terms of momentum, he knew this was a fearsome character among the Ghost Ridge Palace elders. Even if he had a 6th-grade fierce ghost, he definitely wouldn't stand a chance in a real battle. As an esteemed elder of Ghost Ridge Palace, you challenging me is against the rules. Zhou Minzhen was quite upset. He would have agreed if it were just any ordinary secret realm elder. But Taoist Chiu was different. His snake-like vertical pupils unnerved him. Is it according to the rules for the secret realm to challenge the Yunling realm? Cold light shot from Taoist Chiu's eyes as he spoke with a hint of a cold laugh, mixed with disdain and contempt, making one shudder. Zhou Minzhen's face turned red. Whether from anger or shame, it was hard to tell. Let's both take a step back. Zhao Lianshan sighed inwardly, pointing to the group of Heavenly Soul Sect disciples he had brought with him. I've heard that Su Jie is the top among the disciples of Ghost Ridge Palace, so let's have our disciples compete. Considering these are not our best from Heavenly Soul Sect, we will send 3 disciples to fight, which should be fair. 3 against 1, and you call that fair? Ning Xinyue started whisper yelling again, making Zhao Lianshan's forehead bulge with veins. If it weren't for the fact that he couldn't find which bastard was causing trouble, even if Tang Peiqing were here, he would have charged forward and given them a beating. I agree. Suddenly, a smile appeared on Su Jie's face as he ignored the anxious looks from Ning Xinyue behind him, stepping forward to face the Heavenly Soul Sect disciples and pointing at them one by one with his index finger. 1, 2, 3, 6. A total of 10 disciples. No need to send just 3. Let's let them all come at once, so nobody claims I'm picking on anybody. With those words, the entire place fell into silence. Not only were the people from Heavenly Soul Sect stunned, but those from Ghost Ridge Palace were also agape. What did you just say? Zhao Lianshan was a bit doubtful he had heard correctly. I said, I want to fight 10. Su Jie amplified his voice, expressing his intent in a firm and resonant tone. After a moment of stupor, Zhou Minzhen couldn't help but show a sneer and a flicker of joy on his face, guessing that Su Jie was only so arrogant because of the 5th-grade wedding dress ghost in his possession. But they were disciples of Heavenly Soul Sect, the best at manipulating fierce ghosts among the demon cultivators. Even if the wedding dress ghost was indeed powerful, with so many disciples attacking at once, Su Jie had no chance of winning. The fists of the disciples from Heavenly Soul Sect cracked loudly as their anger from being underestimated overwhelmed them, their fierce gazes fixed on Su Jie. Don't get ahead of yourself. I won't go easy on you later. Humph. Fight 10. I want to see if your bones are as hard as your mouth. Hee hee hee. Later I'm going to smash your teeth and cut off your tongue. I just love tormenting defiant scoundrels like you. These Heavenly Soul Sect disciples were seeing such arrogance for the first time. Swearing filled the air. No matter how great a disciple of Ghost Ridge Palace Su Jie was, they were 10 in number. You think you can fight? Taoist Chiu looked at Su Jie. Among the 10 disciples opposite him, 5 were at the 10 levels of Yunling Realm, 5 at the Yunling Realm 9th level. Being brought to Ghost Ridge Palace, these disciples were undoubtedly the core of the younger generation of Heavenly Soul Sect, groomed as elites, expected to ascend to the secret realm. Such disciples were much stronger than others of their level, not to mention Su Jie boldly claiming he would take on all 10 at once. Taoist Chiu knew Su Jie had a primordial spirit, but he still felt worried. Master, trust me this time. Su Jie nodded firmly, facing the 10 disciples with a cruel smile also spreading across his face. Tang Peiqing and others served as judges, and with a command, those 10 Heavenly Soul Sect disciples all made their move. These disciples took out their soul-summoning banners, and wailing souls surged out, among which 3 banners were surprisingly of the 10,000 soul banner rank. Or they summoned various terrifying and gloomy ghosts, ranging from 1st to 4th grade, and there were even 2 5th grade fierce ghosts. A female ghost, silent as a shadow, appeared behind Su Jie. There was also a highly decayed male corpse riddled with maggots squirming all over, standing before him, staring straight at Su Jie. Both of these were 5th grade fierce ghosts, and behind them were even more ghostly creatures. Above Su Jie's head, a formation constructed by 3 10,000 soul banners was in operation, standing ready without attacking immediately. Instead, it was guarding against the 1,000-hand centipede. Clearly, Zhou Minzhen had transmitted a lot of intelligence on Su Jie through divine sense to these heavenly soul sect disciples, relying on fierce ghosts to gang up. However, have you ever heard of a technique called One Force Breaks All Techniques? A smile hung on Su Jie's face, and in the next moment, Su Jie suddenly exclaimed, "Wife, save me!" Inside the divine soul, the contract with the ghost bride was triggered. Almost as soon as his words fell, a red dragon and phoenix bridal sedan chair swooped across the sky. Bang! The 5th grade decaying male corpse was directly hit by the sedan chair, its body severed at the waist and falling to the ground, unable to get up for a long while. The curtains of the bridal sedan chair were lifted, and Han Ruyan's figure appeared on the scene. The female ghost that was close to Su Jie, under Han Ruyan's dead gaze, found her clothes transformed into a red wedding dress, which tightly strangled her body. "You dare to approach my husband?" Han Ruyan took steps on air, approaching the bound female ghost. The 5th grade female ghost attempted to break free from the wedding dress's constraints, but Han Ruyan had already reached out her delicate hand, gently tapping the ghost's forehead. The body of the female ghost shook violently, its body like dye losing color, being steadily erased. In the blink of an eye, only a head remained, which Han Ruyan casually held in her hand. Roar! Hiss! A large number of other fierce ghosts surged up, swarming out of their cages. A bunch of little ghosts. Han Ruyan swept her chilling gaze over them. One after another, the fierce ghosts slightly trembled as if in fear. Scram! Under Han Ruyan's rebuke, the group of ghosts halted, beginning to step back, and even the weaker ones immediately knelt on the ground as if submitting to their emperor. Bear in mind, these fierce ghosts were controlled by demon cultivators and were not the kind of wild or semi-wild fierce ghosts that could be easily suppressed, yet Han Ruyan managed to do so with just a shout. This is a 6th grade fierce ghost. The group of heavenly soul sect disciples was stunned. As demon cultivators who commonly dealt with fierce ghosts, they recognized the rank of the ghost bride at first glance. Just as Ghost Ridge Palace disciples could identify the number of times a poisonous insect had undergone spirit refining at a glance. A 6th grade ghost bride? Impossible. How did he nurture it? Zhou Minzhen was in disbelief. When the ghost bride was taken away by Su Jie, it was only a 5th grade fierce ghost. Even if Su Jie knew the magic skill for the promotion of fierce ghosts, from where would he gather so much fear energy? Recently, he had not heard of any major massacres happening within Qingzhou territory. Elder Zhao, I guess my disciple's strength is still pleasing to the eye? Taoist Qiu, witnessing this scene, showed a mocking smile to Zhao Lianshan beside him. Although he was unfamiliar with ghostly rules and products such as fierce ghosts, he could sense Han Ruyan's strength, and it seemed there was no need for him to worry about this fight. You really hit it deep, didn't you? You must have invested a lot of resources in him, right? Zhao Lianshan's face was stiff as he spoke, glancing back fiercely at Zhou Minzhen now and then. If it weren't for Zhou Minzhen's firm assurance that the ghost bride was only 5th grade, he would never have agreed to this battle that could potentially disgrace the Heavenly Soul Sect. A 6th grade ghost bride battling against a group of Yunling realm disciples was utterly a case of dimensional advantage. It's all thanks to the child's own efforts. We usually let our disciples roam free. Tang Peiqing, stroking his goatee, said breezily, infuriating the elder from Zhao Lianshan's side. This was like saying that a disciple left to roam free could easily outclass the meticulously groomed elite disciples from the other side. The scene in the arena changed again, as the 10 Heavenly Soul Sect disciples manipulated their spells, throwing out numerous ghost-binding ropes. These were ropes solidified from special spiritual power, highly effective against ghosts, capable of suppressing all abilities of a fierce ghost. If it were just an ordinary 5th-grade fierce ghost, being bound by these ropes might really render it powerless. Simultaneously facing the threat of the Ghost Bride, the Een Soul formations roared down. Additionally, many disciples released several silver armor corpses and golden armor corpses. These types of zombies possessing incredible strength, invulnerability to blades and bullets, immune to water and fire. A close encounter would pose a significant danger even to inner disciples. Faced with consecutive offensive moves, a red lantern and a mirror appeared in front of Han Ruyin. The red lantern immobilized all the ghost-binding ropes, then absorbed them into the mirror. These lantern ghost and mirror girl, held by Han Ruyin, were far more powerful than when fighting solo. And as the Een Soul formation pressed down, Han Ruyin remained unflustered, only her blood-colored wedding dress radiating a brilliant light, like layers of crimson waves churning. Countless Een souls enveloped in the glow of the wedding dress dissipated like snow meeting magma, as wisps of green smoke drifted up, and a vast number of Een souls vanished in an instant. Een souls, creatures devoid of fear, continued their fearless assault, trying to penetrate the body of the Ghost Bride to harm her soul. But doing so would only hasten their own demise. Ordinary 10,000 soul banners Een souls were nothing in front of the Ghost Bride. If one were to take out a 10,000 soul banner at the level of 100,000 Een souls, perhaps it might pose a threat to the Ghost Bride. Roar! 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 The silver and golden armored zombies had already charged to Han Ruyin's front. Their fierce and brutal faces, bodies shimmering with silver or golden light, lunging towards Su Jie and the Ghost Bride. Just then, a black moon hung high in the sky, 100 meters above. As the black moon opened its eyes, its red pupils swept over the vast land. Within the silver and golden armored zombies, muscles, meridians, blood vessels, internal organs, brains, and other parts began to manifest delicate blades. These blades split into 2, 2 into 4, 4 into 8, multiplying continuously. In the blink of an eye, over a dozen silver and golden armored zombies stiffened on the spot. From their mouths and noses, from the pores of their bodies, countless tiny blades could be seen sawing back and forth. Seconds later, all the blades burst forth from their bodies, scattering in the wind like petals of a rose. And these zombies exploded with a bang, accompanied by puffs of blood and mud splattering around, drenching the surrounding area with blood and flesh. 10 disciples of the Heavenly Soul Sect trembled, taking out various magical artifacts, still wanting to make one last stand. They were the proud talents of the Heavenly Soul Sect, having lost one against 10, which would bring shame upon them if word got out. Curse! Han Ruyin's dead and indifferent gaze turned towards them, and a chill ran down the spines of the 10 Heavenly Soul Sect disciples, feeling as if some great terror had descended upon them. Their skin was penetrated by layers upon layers of eerie black patterns, and somehow a she character had appeared on their foreheads. This curse ravaged their insides. No matter how they used their spiritual power to dispel it, it had little effect. In just over 10 seconds, the faces of these disciples turned blank, as they bent over in pairs, as if bowing to each other in matrimony, a barely audible whisper echoing from the air, exchanging matrimonial vows. Behind these disciples, on their shadows, a red bridal veil fell over the shadows' heads, obscuring their consciousness as well. As these Heavenly Soul Sect disciples bowed, their life forces visibly waned, and once the wedding rites were completed, it would be their moment of death. We admit defeat. Zhao Lianshan couldn't bear it any longer, seeing the defeat was set, and if he didn't step in now, all these elite disciples of his sect would be dead. Wife, spare them. Su Jie, seeing it was time to call it quits, signaled Han Ruyin to come back. Killing everyone would only cause complications with the alliance between the two demon sects. Su Jie was reasonable enough to understand that. Besides, His grudge was with Zhou Minzhen, not these minor disciples whom Su Jie hadn't even taken into consideration. Han Ruyan slowly retracted her gaze, dissolving the curse imposed on the 10 disciples. Thump! The 10 disciples collapsed to the ground, some with skin ulcerated, exposing white bones, some with teeth falling out, tongues severed, and others with numerous broken bones. The scene was a mess of blood, many disciples rolling on the ground in pain, only slightly relieved after taking healing pills. All these disciples had previously insulted Su Jie, and Han Ruyan, protective of her husband, had punished each one. The filth they had spewed was now matched by their grim fate. "We are grateful for your mercy in sparing our lives," they said. "Against a 6th-grade wedding dress ghost, I have no complaints about my loss. It seems I was a frog in a well. Mr. Su truly deserves to be the top disciple of Ghost Ridge Palace. I, Su Jun, am convinced." When those heavenly soul sect disciples who had not been tormented regained their bearings, their faces showed the relief of having survived a catastrophe. Their eyes filled with extreme terror and fear when they looked at Han Ruyan. It was this female ghost who had almost taken their lives. "Now that the outcome is clear, does Elder Zhao have anything to say?" Taoist Qiu spoke in a tone neither cold nor warm, causing Zhao Lianshan's face to alternatingly flush and pale, as if he'd been through a dying workshop. His face had lost all its dignity as the leader of 10 disciples who couldn't beat a single opponent. "Our heavenly soul sect is willing to accept the loss. The matter of East Victory City shall be written off." Elder Zhao glared fiercely at Zhou Minzhen, then looked at his disciples with a mix of anger and frustration, as if regretting their inability to meet his expectations. With a sweep of his sleeve, he turned and left without looking back, to avoid further embarrassment in front of onlookers. As for the disciples, they too rose to their feet, supporting each other as they staggered away from this heartrending place. Behind them, many guests whispered among themselves, their gazes towards Su Jie filled with admiration. With just the wedding dress ghost, he managed to defeat 10 elite disciples from the Heavenly Soul Sect, and Su Jie hadn't even used his other techniques, like the poisonous insects from Ghost Ridge Palace. This indicated that Su Jie's strength was far greater than what had been witnessed. Taoist Qiu approached Su Jie, clearly satisfied with his performance. "As my disciple, you should be just as formidable. With me here, no one can oppress you by their status," he said. While speaking, Taoist Qiu also took out an item from his storage bag. "I've reforged this white bone sky-slaying sword for you. Use it well," he said. The item Taoist Qiu brought out was a flying sword, exuding a formidable murderous aura, and its whole body was pristine white. "Thank you, Master," Su Jie said, looking at the newly reforged white bone sky-slaying sword. With fresh spiritual materials added, the sword appeared even sharper and caused pain with just one glance. Master, this flying sword's grade," Su Jie said. Suddenly, Su Jie noticed something wrong with the grade of the white bone sky-slaying sword. It wasn't the mid-grade magical artifact he had expected, but a genuine top-grade magical artifact. Su Jie had an eye for quality, and he knew the difference between a real top-grade magical artifact and a mid-grade magical artifact was enormous. "Recently, I killed an elder from the Purple Mist sect who had many suitable spiritual materials and divine ores. I incorporated them into the forging process and produced a top-grade flying sword. Consider it an advance gift for you before entering the secret realm." Taoist Qiu spoke indifferently, while the surrounding guests turned envious to the point their eyes were practically glowing red. Everyone knew a normal mid-grade magical artifact cost between 5,000 to 10,000 spirit stones, and this grade of artifact was the standard weapon for most Hidden Realm elders of average strength. As for top-grade magical artifacts, their prices started at 50,000 spirit stones, with some of the finest or those possessing special functions reaching 200,000 to 300,000 spirit stones. Only the powerful Hidden Realm warriors would use top-grade magical artifacts in battle. Now, seeing Taoist Qiu bestow a top-grade magical artifact to Su Jie, such extravagant action made countless people wish they could be in his shoes. "Master, this is too valuable. Su Jie began. At that moment, Su Jie suddenly understood Xiao Guanglian's joy, To have such a strong backing was indeed exceedingly thrilling. As long as you advance to the secret realm and don't disappoint my expectations, a mere top-grade magical artifact is well within my means to give, Taoist Qiu said, glancing at the astonished guests around him. If they knew that Su Jie was an immortal seed whom even sect Master Zhang Junwei couldn't resist attempting to take as a disciple, and that Su Jie had condensed his primordial spirit in the Yunling realm, they would immediately understand his actions. Master, I will certainly not tarnish your reputation, Su Jie said, caressing the icy blade of the white-bone sky-slaying sword. Su Jie felt reassured knowing this top-grade weapon would significantly bolster his combat arsenal. Don't disappoint me, Taoist Qiu said, nodding his head and turning to leave with Tang Peiqing. The rest of the guests gradually followed suit, dispersing from the area. Ning Xinyue approached Su Jie. Her curiosity piqued as she gazed at the flying sword in his hand. Why doesn't my master, Elder Tang, give me such nice things? She complained, puffing up her cheeks with envy at Su Jie's effortless acquisition of magical artifacts. She had to invest spirit stones and scour hills and dales with the Tianxi 8 diagrams plate to find treasures, while Su Jie simply had the treasures delivered to him. Su Jie laughed and replied, if you're willing to reveal your Xianyin body, Elder Tang might indeed present you with a top-grade magical artifact. With a pout, Ning Xinyue responded, forget it. I prefer to enrich myself through my own hard work. Who knows? I might even come across an exotic treasure and make a fortune. Do you think exotic treasures are like turnips in the ground, just waiting to be found? Su Jie said, shaking his head amusedly. He nodded to Xiao Fengyuan before departing. Just wait. The day I find an exotic treasure, I'll make you green with envy, you jerk? Ning Xinyue mumbled, wrinkling her nose and pulling a face at Su Jie's retreating figure, her competitive spirit unwavering. Inside the closed-door cultivation chamber of the residence. After bathing and burning incense, Su Jie sat cross-legged on a cushion. In front of him, there was a jade bottle, inside which was a rainbow-gathering flame pill. Behind him was a 9-grade sacred lotus, still in its seedling state, creating a better environment of spiritual energy. To Su Jie's left and right were the Thousand-Hand Centipede and Han Ruyan to guard the Dao, ensuring his safety should any risks arise during his breakthrough. The reason for such caution was that today, Su Jie was about to officially start his breakthrough into the secret realm. Secret realm, come forth. Su Jie took a deep breath, grabbed the jade bottle, and swallowed the rainbow-gathering flame pill in one gulp. As the elixir entered his body, faint golden light spread throughout Su Jie's limbs and bones. At this moment, Su Jie's mind seemed to explode with myriad images surfacing in his sea of consciousness, various cultivation techniques and combat experiences he had learned before: 100 Poison Refining Gu Scripture, White Crane Zen Dao, Enlightenment Returning Ruins Skill, Mysterious Shadow Secret Technique, 5 Elements Demon Suppressing Handprint, 7 Star Steps, Insect Control Technique, Body Worm Focusing Method, 9 Nether Ghost Cultivation Technique. An enormous amount of knowledge was continuously crushed and imprinted into his brain, and at this moment, Su Jie had a deeper understanding of these magic skills. Han Ruyan turned her head to look at Su Jie and saw him hovering half a meter off the ground, with a circle behind him representing wisdom and enlightenment. That was the Heart Enlightenment Ring, born of enlightenment and the supreme wisdom it brings forth. It was said that if one had this halo for 9 days and nights, one could use wisdom to verify the true nature of all things. The Heart Enlightenment Ring behind Su Jie lasted for a brief 5 minutes before slowly fading away, but in this short state of enlightenment, Su Jie saw the grand avenue leading to the secret realm. Within Su Jie's body, at the location of the 5 organs, 5 divine beings slowly opened their eyes. Those eyes, like galaxies in the universe, sparkled with extraordinary divine light, their gaze penetrating the void, through time and space, as though they could perceive everything in the world. In the heart, a fire god stood atop a volcano, crowned and overlooking the mortal realm as if he was the sovereign of thousands of worlds, from whom divinity emerged. In the liver, a divine wood soared into the sky with the wood god sowing seeds and sprouts that quickly grew into a lush forest that spread throughout the universe. forming the world of the forest. In the lungs, the golden god roared and metals like gold and silver fell from the high heavens like meteorites, tearing through everything in their path and shattering the ground upon impact, with a violent and dangerous storm raging in their wake. In the spleen, a majestic and tall mountain was home to the earth god of immense virtue, from whom all things drew life and propagated. In the kidneys, there was a boundless ocean where the water god resided in the deep abyss, capable of generating towering tsunamis with a mere movement. Heaven and earth have the 5 elements, and the human body has 5 organs to match them as one. The human body is like a microcosm, and the secret realm is the process of tapping into the power of the 5 internal organs: heart, liver, spleen, lungs, and kidneys, and nurturing gods within them. These gods are not true deities but rather a form of deity, created by infusing spiritual power with different attributes within the 5 organs. For example, the heart is associated with fire, and the spiritual power circulating in that area needs to naturally possess the attribute of fire element spiritual power. Simply put, it is turning the heart into a high-temperature processing center. When the circulating spiritual power enters, it becomes imbued with fire element spiritual power, carrying the damage of burning and explosion. When refining the kidneys, associated with water, it increases the endurance of spiritual power. The spleen belongs to earth, and refining it strengthens the defensive power of spiritual power. The liver is associated with wood, which can increase the recovery speed of spiritual power. The lungs are associated with metal, enhancing spiritual power with greater armor-piercing capability. The human body's 5 organs correspond to the 5 elements. Each organ refined adds an elemental increase to the damage of spiritual power, greatly enhancing its lethality. Additionally, the 5 organs are interrelated. Refining one is like adding a new spiritual power reservoir within the body, enabling the absorption and storage of more spiritual energy and naturally strengthening the power of magic. The cultivation of the secret realm is the process of nurturing the divine. Once the 5 organs are refined, the 5 divinities interact incessantly like the 5 elements, with spiritual power as vast as the ocean. With every little action, it is as if the 5 elements cycle is in motion, pressing down with overwhelming power, making one unstoppable in battle. Su Jie understood the path that lay ahead of him and decisively chose the heart as the first location for nurturing the divine being within his secret treasure divine palace, as the heart is the most important organ in the body and the power center of circulation. Spiritual power surged relentlessly towards his heart, stimulating specific acupoints and meridians, according to the patterns encoded in Su Jie's mind, turning it into his first inner god. Generally, disciples who have just broken through to the secret realm can take a shortcut, which is to postpone the development of a divine being and first break through the realm, allowing spiritual energy into the 5 organs to establish corresponding spiritual power reservoirs. This way, their bodies, having reached the peak of the Yunling realm, can continue to absorb external spiritual energy. Many disciples do this, as their talents are limited and just being able to break through to the secret realm is already quite an accomplishment. Bringing forth a divine being in one attempt is something these disciples simply cannot achieve, so they must slowly refine their craft over time. Most disciples truly nurture their first inner god within a year. However, Su Jie's purple cloud thunder body was not just for show. In his recent moment of enlightenment, he had already seen his future path and knew how to cultivate his first inner god. He had no hesitation, going straight to the heart, this source of power, to begin the process. Spiritual energy continually penetrated into the intricate and hidden acupoints of the heart, coding them as if they were being encoded. Since each person's genetic makeup has subtle variations, the path to nurture a divine being is also different for everyone, and one must rely on personal enlightenment rather than treading in the footsteps of predecessors. Gradually, the heart's beating slowed, and within its chambers, bright sparks of fire began to emerge. That was the intensification of spiritual power. Su Jie needed to make the spark catch fire completely and ignite a large blaze. Time trickled by and Su Jie kept trying. His heartbeat became slower and slower, yet there were more and more sparks, and the spiritual energy entering his heart was gradually dyed red. 1 hour, 10 hours, 3 days passed. 5 days passed. Above Su Jie's mansion, many people looked up and could see the spectacle resembling clouds lit by fire. That was the naturally occurring phenomenon presented by Su Jie's outwardly dispersed gaseous spiritual power. That's the direction of Brother Su's residence. Could it be that he is breaking through to the secret realm? What's with these fiery clouds? Can the spiritual power of someone in the Yunling realm be that abundant? You're making a big deal out of nothing. Brother Su is the top disciple, capable of single-handedly taking down 10 men from the Heavenly Soul sect. How can his spiritual power be comparable to ours? Looking at these fiery clouds, Brother Su is nurturing his spirit. If he breaks through and ascends to the secret realm, he will directly enter the first-level realm. Many disciples noticed this change. After all, the scene was massive, making it impossible to ignore. From the start of Su Jie's breakthrough, disciples came every day to watch and discuss when Su Jie would emerge, adding another powerful figure to the sect. Not only the disciples, but many elders were secretly paying attention as well. With the title of top disciple, Su Jie's breakthrough would surely draw the attention of the entire sect. When the 7th day arrived, it was on this day that Su Jie's nearly stopped heart suddenly emitted a thunderous roar. Brilliant firelight surged from within, almost instantly igniting all the spiritual power in his body. Sizzle, the thousand-hand centipede, feeling the vast and intense changes in Su Jie's aura, joyfully spun in circles, emitting happy cries. And Han Ruyan could see that within Su Jie, fiery patterns emerged around his heart. With every breath, a hot aura was released. Ha! The secret treasure realm, where all 5 elements are divine. Su Jie suddenly opened his eyes, rising from his cross-legged position. The spiritual energy from the outside world surged into his body, while the spiritual power erupting from Su Jie's body came with violent, fervent, and destructive qualities, and its color also turned fiery red. At the heart, it was as if a fire god also opened its eyes, instantly igniting the spiritual power. Su Jie waved his hand, and the omnipresent spiritual power transformed into fireworks, igniting the air strand by strand. It was as though a shower of fire had fallen from the sky, magnificently beautiful. Yet when it touched the ground, it burned pits the size of basins. Mixed within these flames were streaks of purple lightning, a sign of the influence of the primordial spirit. The primordial spirit and the physical body were united. Now when Su Jie launched a strike, he could simultaneously inflict damage with both primordial spirit and fire. Within the divine soul, the ancient mirror trembled slightly. To Su Jie's slight regret, the mirror only vibrated but did not open the sea of heaven. Just as Su Jie felt a trace of regret, unexpectedly, his breakthrough caused changes in the heavenly phenomena. It was seen that above the sky of Su Jie's residence, the void appeared to split open, creating an invisible crack, while ancient chimes echoed through the universe. Under the sky dome, clouds and mist intertwined, and as green rain fell, deadwood sprang to life, and purple aura spread out, transforming into auspicious creatures like phoenixes, cheilants, and divine deer. What is this? I don't know. I've never seen this before. That doesn't seem like spiritual energy. This is a heavenly and earthly phenomenon, mentioned in books. Legends say that only when saints and immortal seeds break through, such phenomena occur. Many disciples who came to Su Jie's residence every day, waiting for his breakthrough, witnessed this astonishing sight. Many were puzzled by the occurrence, but some well-read disciples guessed the reason. As the news spread, it caused a great stir among the disciples, and their gaze towards Su Jie's residence changed. Heavenly and earthly phenomena. Indeed an immortal seed, the fortune of Ghost Ridge Palace. Tang Peiqing, pushing open the windows of the refining pavilion, gazed at the scene from afar, his face unable to hide his astonishment. Since ancient times, it has been said that when sages are born, heavenly and earthly phenomena accompany them. In the realm of cultivators, this is a sign of the birth of a true immortal seed, favored by heaven and earth. This is my disciple. Today, I shall host a feast, and everyone is invited for a drink. Taoist Chiu, who was making magic artifacts with a group of elders for the upcoming war preps, was also startled by the phenomenon. Realizing it originated from Su Jie, his face beamed with pride that he couldn't conceal. The surrounding elders, though silent, had eyes full of envy. A disciple such as this immortal seed was a rare sight in 100 years, especially for the now decline-ridden demon path. The entire Ghost Ridge Palace sect was stirred by these heavenly and earthly phenomena. It had been many years since a disciple's breakthrough had caused such a commotion. Even the most senior elders couldn't recall the last time their sect had cultivated an immortal seed that caused heavenly and earthly phenomena. Su Jie looked up in astonishment. In the void, a mysterious bird soared. Purple energy surged into the courtyard. Divine light illuminated the room, and clouds hung over his head like a car cover. At this moment, Su Jie's body felt as if it were soaking in a hot spring, immensely warm and comfortable. Some hidden injuries in his body healed instantly, and his body was enveloped in purple energy, emitting sounds like dragon scales chime and becoming covered with scale patterns, turning completely golden as if he were a golden divine being. During this process, Su Jie's body was visibly strengthening. Bones, flesh, organs, and divine soul, all these fundamentals were being solidly enhanced. Phenomenon between heaven and earth. A celebration by the heavenly Tao. Su Jie murmured to himself, his heart pounding with excitement. This was a phenomenon that appeared only when favored by the heavenly Tao. Although he was a demon cultivator, he too was favored by the heavenly Tao. Because the heavenly Tao regards all things as straw dogs, it does not show human bias or favoritism, nor does it adhere to concepts of right and wrong, good and evil. The heavenly Tao treats all humans equally. As long as your talent is strong enough, exceptionally outstanding, whether you are a killer of countless men or a merciful high monk, it will bestow blessings. Because the heavenly Tao follows the natural law much like nature itself, it honors the law of the survival of the fittest. Su Jie gained great benefits from this heavenly and earthly phenomenon. But it wasn't just Su Jie reaping rewards. Behind him, tender sprouts and leaves fluttered, greedily absorbing the purple energy diffused by the phenomenon. That was Su Jie's 9-grade sacred lotus, an exotic treasure undergoing transformation. Its branches quickly growing and sprouting, its 3 lotus leaves gradually forming, emitting a persistent fragrance. The 1,000-hand centipede stared at the 9-grade sacred lotus, drooling from the corner of its mouth, irresistibly lured by this exotic treasure. Han Ruyan slapped the head of the 1,000-hand centipede and said coldly, "Don't even think about eating it. Zzz." The 1,000-hand centipede, quite dissatisfied with Han Ruyan's behavior, stood up and brandished its claws at her. But fortunately, it knew that this was its master's possession. It was merely coveting and did not actually bite. "Humph." Han Ruyan slowly exhaled and said, "Little bug. Zzz." The 1,000-hand centipede wanted to show its true form, to see who the real little one was. A ghost and a bug faced each other just as the heavenly phenomenon finally began to fade slowly. Su Jie felt the changes in his body, lightly clenched his fist, and air in his palm rushed out violently, as if a bomb had exploded in his palm. 5 elements demon-suppressing handprint. Su Jie shouted lightly, unleashing a palm with his left hand. The abundant spiritual power after ascending to the secret realm, enhanced by the fire element spiritual power, transformed the handprint into a huge size, and when it landed on the ground, it directly smashed a deep pit nearly 10 meters deep, with a scorching aura rising from its surface. The entire seclusion room trembled violently, its power immensely shocking. If it weren't for the array barriers, it might have collapsed immediately. Buzz buzz. From the insect control bag, a swarm of human-faced moths surged out. The insect cloud under Su Jie's command intertwined with each other, faintly forming some kind of creature array. In the ocean, many small fish gathered together, disguising themselves as a massive beast to intimidate predators. However, the insect cloud formed by the human-faced moths wasn't just about outward intimidation. Su Jie's primordial spirit spread out, connecting points into lines, lines into planes, making the vast insect cloud truly unify. Hoo! The insect cloud trembled, ripples emerging in the air as they connected through Su Jie's primordial spirit. Su Jie took out an iron ingot, and one of the human-faced moths landed in his palm, spewing its acidic liquid. The iron ingot corroded with a sizzling sound, forming fine honeycomb-like deep pits, its power much greater than before. Su Jie's primordial spirit acted as a conduit for energy transmission, forming a biological array, leveraging other human-faced moths' blood and spiritual power among other things, enhancing the potency of this moth's acid. Su Jie picked up the human-faced moth and set it on the ground, then took out a spirit stone to feed it. The human-faced moth happily started munching on it, while Su Jie placed his hand above it, red light emanating from his palm, magnifying the spirit stone that the moth had just ingested. Under the red light irradiation, akin to high particle radiation, the body of the human-faced moth slowly underwent changes. Its leg muscles became stronger than before, its wings broader, and the poison sac inside more corrosive. Su Jie had modified the body of this human-faced moth. During his state of enlightenment in the secret realm, Su Jie gained a new understanding of various magical skills he cultivated. Among them, the 100 Poison Refining Gu Scripture and 3 Secrets of Gu Master, Insect Control Technique, Body Worm Focusing Method, Human Worm Refining Technique, which Su Jie had practiced for the longest time, he understood the deepest. Although Su Jie had only read about the Human Worm Refining Technique and had not truly practiced it, the core of the Human Worm Refining Technique, the ability to merge life-bound poisonous insects with the cultivator's body, he could now use this transformative ability in a simplified form. Essentially, all that a Gu Master cultivates is for better utilization of poisonous insects. When a realm is reached, many skills follow the same principle and are not limited to one path. Other paths can also achieve similar results. Shao Qian. Su Jie called out, and the 1,000-hand centipede hopped onto Su Jie, eyes eagerly watching him. Su Jie took out tens of thousands of spirit stones. The upper body of the 1,000-hand centipede grew larger by several sizes, and it swallowed these spirit stones in a few gulps. Subsequently, Su Jie activated his transformation ability, sweat instantly breaking out on his forehead. This was completely different in difficulty from modifying the human-faced moth. Several minutes later, Su Jie observed that the scales on the surface of the 1,000-hand centipede had become deeper. Its defense had improved a tiny bit, though it wasn't very noticeable. However, the 1,000-hand centipede was very excited, its mouth wide open, hoping to coax more spirit stones from Su Jie to modify it further. "I'm broke." Su Jie couldn't help but laugh and cry. After all, the 1,000-handed centipede was a mid-grade 5 refinement poisonous insect. The total wealth of spirit stones and blood marrow crystals Su Jie owned could hardly strengthen it by much. The 1,000-handed centipede coiled around Su Jie's arm as he checked the savings of spirit stones in his storage bag, which still had over 100,000, with the majority being the 100,000 given by Taoist Chiu last time. After tapping the 1,000-handed centipede's forehead, Su Jie helplessly said, "I'll upgrade you after I've made some money. Let's forget about it for today." Having said this, Su Jie's gaze turned to the 9-grade sacred lotus. This exotic treasure had completely changed its appearance. Previously, it had only small cotyledons, resembling the shape of bean sprouts. The 9-grade sacred lotus had now grown to 20 centimeters tall, and the cotyledons were fully developed into 3 lotus leaves. Overall, the 9-grade sacred lotus stood tall, with the spiritual energy from the 5-element spiritual soil below condensing into a mist, and the nearby white bone tree converting the spiritual power into mist that settled on the lotus leaves as droplets. The droplets shone with a crystal-clear brilliance, resembling pearls embedded in the verdant leaves, emitting a soft luster and a mouth-watering fragrance. This exotic treasure, the 9-grade sacred lotus, greatly benefited from absorbing the phenomena of heaven and earth, tremendously promoting its growth. 3 lotus leaves. It has developed to the first stage. Su Jie was thrilled and began to examine it eagerly. After obtaining the 9-grade sacred lotus, Su Jie had specially researched the scriptures about this exotic treasure in the library of Ghost Ridge Palace. Once the 9-grade sacred lotus grows 3 leaves, it can already be used. Of course, it isn't meant to be eaten. The mature entity has 9 leaves and blossoms with buds. Only at full bloom it reaches completion. Now at only the first stage, Sujie followed the scriptures he had read before, performed the spell and lightly shouted, "Control!" The 9-grade sacred lotus floated up and began to spin around Sujie. This exotic treasure, which Sujie had often used to imprint with his own aura and repeatedly nurtured before, was already semi-recognized by him, allowing Sujie to control it with ease. Shao Qian, Purple Light Ray. Sujie waved to the 1,000-handed centipede. Understanding the cue, the 1,000-handed centipede's faceplate split open, launching terrifying beams of purple light. The leaves of the 9-grade sacred lotus glowed faintly, emitting a blue-dark light membrane that shielded against the purple rays. Boom! The purple rays only caused ripples on the blue-dark light membrane and were easily defended against. Han Ruyan, upon seeing this scene, suddenly raised her left hand, allowing curse power to spread. Similarly, the blue-dark light membrane shielded Sujie, nullifying the invisible curse power and preventing it from affecting him. This is the purpose of the 9-grade sacred lotus. It's considered a first-class defensive treasure. Now at only its initial stage, its defensive power is still limited, but with each additional leaf it grows, its defensive capabilities will increase substantially. Once it reaches its complete form with 9 leaves and flowering, if a cultivator can fully refine it, then the defensive power of the 9-grade sacred lotus will be exaggerated to an extremely astonishing extent, among other marvelous effects. The initial destruction of the 9-grade sacred lotus was mainly because it had no master at the time, no one to refine it and spontaneously utilize its defensive abilities, as plants do not have much self-defense consciousness. Sujie then had Han Ruyan and the 1,000-handed centipede increase their efforts to test the current defensive limits of the 9-grade sacred lotus. Under the full effort of the 1,000-handed centipede, the defense was eventually breached, and some of Han Ruyan's curses began to penetrate as well, but not all could be entirely blocked. Yet even so, Sujie couldn't help but smile at the corners of his mouth. The current defensive power of the 9-grade sacred lotus was already extremely exaggerated, considering the attackers were a mid-grade 5 refinement poisonous insect and a 6th-grade wedding dress ghost. Even the secret realm could not ignore their attacks, yet the 9-grade sacred lotus could reduce their attacks by a great deal under their full strength. The only pity is that this 3rd-grade state sacred lotus cannot be used for a long duration. Sujie observed the 9-grade sacred lotus, which appeared somewhat wilted, its previously upright stance now curving downwards. Because it was not in its complete form, using it for defense would undoubtedly consume a great deal of its nutrients and slow down its growth rate. If it were to be damaged, that would be even more painful for anyone to endure. Sujie placed the 9-grade sacred lotus under his feet. As his thoughts moved, the 9-grade sacred lotus sprinkled around itself a holy and beautiful starlight, and the sounds of heaven and earth flowed automatically. Susu. The leaves of the 9-grade sacred lotus swayed, spilling starlight, accompanied by thousands of auspicious purple mist spirits. The spiritual power within Sujie's body circulated, increasing the speed of absorbing the spiritual energy from the surroundings and making it easier to understand various cultivation practices. Beyond providing defense, the 9-grade sacred lotus also acted as a cultivation accelerator, which was the second ability of the 9-grade sacred lotus. Initially, Sujie had merely eaten a lotus seed of the 9-grade sacred lotus and had improved his physical constitution, obtained the purple cloud thunder body, and gained the divine skills of the purple cloud heavenly thunder. This showed just how powerful the 9-grade sacred lotus was in aiding others with enlightenment and cultivation. Sujie was still satisfied with the 9-grade sacred lotus at its 3rd-grade lotus leaf stage because in a life-threatening crisis, using the 9-grade sacred lotus could undoubtedly compensate for Sujie's defensive shortcomings. After storing the 9-grade sacred lotus, Sujie got up, pushed open the door of the seclusion room, and stepped outside. Outside the mansion, a large number of disciples had already gathered. The celestial phenomenon caused by Sujie's breakthrough was something these disciples were seeing for the first time. They had run over out of curiosity. As the door was pushed open and Su Jie appeared, the crowd of disciples felt as if they were looking directly into the radiance of the sun. A dazzling golden light spread around Su Jie, resembling a deity from ancient times, possessing an extraordinary aura. Some of the disciples who met Su Jie's gaze could feel the vigorous vitality of Su Jie's body, like that of a towering ancient tree, and vaguely, the grand sounds of the Tao were transmitted, mysterious and unfathomable. This was the result of Su Jie still being in resonance with the Tao after the blessing of heavenly Tao. His body's aura not yet fully dissipated, still resonating with the Tao, and not all qi had been retracted. On seeing Su Jie's aura, far surpassing the Yunling realm, the crowd of disciples knew that Su Jie had successfully made a breakthrough. Congratulations, Elder Su, on advancing to the secret realm. Congratulations, Elder Su, on advancing to the secret realm. Congratulations, Elder Su, on advancing to the secret realm. Unified shouts echoed. Su Jie's status was promoted from Brother Su to Elder Su by everyone present. The title of Elder within the Ghost Ridge Palace was highly revered, something numerous disciples of the Ghost Ridge Palace dream of achieving. Su Jie's promotion undoubtedly added a powerful force in the moment the sect was waging a war. I have not let your expectations down. Today, I, Su Jie, have advanced to the secret realm. Su Jie bowed to the crowd around him, not looking down on other disciples just because he had advanced to the secret realm. Elder Su. In the crowd, Chen Yun and Wu Bin were also present, wearing proud smiles on their faces after Su Jie's advancement. There's no need to be so formal, just call me as you used to. Calling me Elder makes me feel as if I am 70 or 80 years old. Let's have a drink together tonight. Su Jie patted Chen Yun and Wu Bin on the shoulders. Yes, Brother Su. May you continue to ascend to greater heights in the future. Wu Bin looked at Su Jie, feeling immensely moved in his heart. When he first met Su Jie, the latter was just an outer disciple. Back then, Wu Bin thought that Su Jie's potential was merely to advance to being an inner disciple. However, Su Jie's rise far exceeded his expectations. He watched step by step as Su Jie grew stronger, from advancing to an inner disciple to becoming the #1 disciple, and now even advancing to the secret realm, much further than he had imagined. Mr. Su, you will certainly achieve great things in Ghost Ridge Palace in the future. Chen Yun's face was quite excited. She was not yet an inner disciple, just at the 5th level of the Yunling realm. But knowing someone like Su Jie, a young and boundlessly promising elder of the secret realm, even inner disciples wouldn't dare to provoke her. I hope your good words come true. Su Jie chuckled, seeing the admiration and awe in the eyes of the surrounding disciples. A surge of ambition unavoidably arose in his heart. Having been in Ghost Ridge Palace for nearly 3 years, he had finally taken the most solid step, achieving the cultivation of the secret realm. Soon, the news about Su Jie's advancement to the secret realm and the induced celestial phenomenon spread far and wide. Su Jie exchanged pleasantries with Chen Yun and Wu Bin for a while before he parted with them and arrived at Taoist Qiu's residence. After entering, Su Jie not only saw Taoist Qiu but also several elders nearby. They were together refining standard magical artifacts, and Taoist Qiu's expertise in artifact refining was evident from the craftsmanship of the white-bone sky-slaying sword. Many older elders, apart from battling, possessed other special skills, such as alchemy, artifact refining, talisman painting, and array drawing, among others. For instance, the oldest among them, Tang Peiqing, was unrivaled in the entire sect in both alchemy and poison-making, while also being proficient in artifact refining and talisman painting. The long passage of time had given him ample opportunity to study and hone his skills. Elders like him, with rich experience and a multitude of skills, were considered treasures in any sect. Disciple Su Jie greets Master. Su Jie stepped forward and performed the disciple's salute. Taoist Qiu put down his work and observed the changes in Su Jie's aura, nodding with satisfaction. Very well, you indeed advanced to the secret realm within a week, living up to your word. Disciple has been solely focused on cultivation, not daring to slack off in the slightest. With the righteous sect's great power looming outside, Advancing early to the secret realm also enables me to alleviate the sect's concerns sooner. Su Jie spoke with righteousness, sounding sincere. Upon hearing this, the elders nearby couldn't help but praise him. Mr. Su, not only do you possess exceptional talents, but your heart is also top-notch. Just a few days ago, I executed several cowards and traitors. If everyone shared Mr. Su's mindset, we might have already flattened those righteous sects. Mr. Su, come visit my place later. Teach my disciples a lesson and show them what the proper ideological state for a member of the Ghost Ridge Palace should be. Now that Su Jie had advanced to the secret realm, he was considered an equal among these elders, who now addressed him as a fellow cultivator. The elders being here at Taoist Chou's meant they had good relations with him and were not stingy with their acclaim. He, Su Jie, you truly did not disappoint. Just then, a voice was heard. A figure descended from the sky, wearing a black gold robe and a stern face. It was Zhang Junwei, the sect master of the Ghost Ridge Palace. Greeting the sect master. Su Jie turned and saluted with his hands clasped. Greeting the sect master. Taoist Chou and the other elders also rose to perform their salutations. I am here to find Su Jie, with such celestial phenomena and an immortal seed advancing. It's been many years since our Ghost Ridge Palace experienced this. Zhang Junwei waved his hand, motioning Su Jie to come forward. Su Jie quickly stepped forward, wondering what Zhang Junwei wanted with him. Sit first. Zhang Junwei's face bore a harmonious smile as his eyes beheld Su Jie with increasing satisfaction. The words you spoke earlier were heard by my eyes. Lately, in our confrontations with the righteous sects, many elders have fallen. Now that you have advanced to become of the secret realm, it means you are qualified to undertake the responsibilities of the secret realm. Here are the recently deceased elders. Their names are all here and their duties as well. You may select one to replace and assume command to maintain the sect's safety. Zhang Junwei took out a booklet and handed it to Su Jie. Su Jie instantly understood Zhang Junwei's intent. Such level of power in the secret realm usually entailed significant duties. However, positions of great responsibility were typically rare, like a single position for each eligible person. For instance, Tang Peiqing held the position of Alchemy Pavilion Master, and also served as Artifact Refining Hall Master merely because of his wide range of skills and being the most experienced elder in the sect. The Hall Master of the Command Hall was Wu Shiping, a relative of Sect Master Zhang Junwei, thus holding the crucial position managing task distributions in the Command Hall. Even Taoist Chou served as the Deputy Master of the Refining Hall, one of the highest-ranking departments in the Ghost Ridge Palace, holding the same status as the Alchemy Pavilion, Punishment Hall, and the Command Hall, thus making it a highly authoritative position. Under normal circumstances when elders were still alive, these key positions would not be opened up. Newly advanced secret realms could not take office and had to instruct disciples as elders. But due to the sect wars, many elders had fallen, leading to vacancies in these positions, which became prize targets for those elders without official roles. By giving Su Jie the choice, Zhang Junwei was clearly using his authority for personal reasons. Of course, knowing this, the other elders dared not say much. Su Jie guessed that probably the fuss he made during his advancement was too great, and Zhang Junwei's offer of a significant post was a kind of enticement. The nearby elders heard this, and aside from Taoist Chou, who was smiling, the rest revealed a hint of envy. Among them, there were those who had yet to hold any sect duties. Su Jie flipped through the booklet. He was not one to be overly idealistic. Holding a role with real authority was far better than being among the powerless. Sect Master, may I take up this position? Su Jie pointed to a page in the register and directly asked. Puppet Hall, you want to take up this position? Zhang Junwei was slightly startled. He hadn't heard that Su Jie was skilled in puppetry techniques. On the contrary, he had only heard that Su Jie was good at refining poisonous insects and also possessed a formidable female ghost. Sect Master, I've always been interested in puppetry techniques, but I've never had the opportunity to study them before, Su Jie said with a smile. He thought that if he could become the hall master of the puppet hall, He might be able to refer to some of Blue Star's technological blueprints and replicate related products in Ghost Ridge Palace. That could work. Previously, the Hall Master Peng Tannen was the only one in the sect skilled in puppetry techniques. Since you're interested, I'll entrust it to you. Zhang Junwei did not ponder further. Puppet Hall was just a marginal department within Ghost Ridge Palace. Except for the sacrificed former Hall Master Peng Tannen, it was left with some disciples interested in or talented in puppetry techniques. In Ghost Ridge Palace, a sect filled with those playing with insects, it seldom attracted any attention. The other elders, seeing Su Jie's choice, looked at each other in dismay. Clearly, there were better positions available, yet Su Jie seemed oblivious to them. Some elders, still without positions, watched with envy and nearly wished they could take that role in Su Jie's stead. Su Jie, think it over again. There are many important positions available. Taoist Chiu coughed lightly, worried his disciple didn't understand the importance of the position and wanted Su Jie to choose another. Master, I have thought it through. I'm really interested in puppetry techniques, so I won't change my decision. Su Jie shook his head, leaving Taoist Chiu speechless. As for the Puppet Hall department, it virtually had no funds, and previously, it was just a place where Peng Tannen, the elder, entertained himself with no status within Ghost Ridge Palace. Ghost Ridge Palace neither allocated funds to the Puppet Hall nor assigned any tasks, demanding no deliverables from the hall. Had it not been for the fact that Peng Tannen was a seasoned practitioner and had a cultivation at the 4th level of the secret realm, such a department would have been abolished by Ghost Ridge Palace long ago. All right, you'll be the hall master of the Puppet Hall from now on. I hope you work hard and continue the legacy of the Puppet Hall. Zhang Junwei handed Su Jie a token representing the identity of the hall master of the Puppet Hall and said somewhat nonchalantly, Sect Master, don't worry. When the time comes, I'll brandish an AK in my left hand and a Winchester in my right, and I will surely expand and strengthen the Puppet Hall to new heights. Su Jie stood up, full of momentum, his voice booming like thunder. Very ambitious. But what is an AK and a Winchester? Zhang Junwei looked puzzled, hearing these terms for the first time. Those are types of weapons I've conceptualized, still in the idea stage, but perhaps I'll design them in the future. Su Jie replied while scratching his head. Then I'll look forward to your performance. As for funds, if you can achieve results, the sect will not be stingy in allocating funds. Zhang Junwei patted Su Jie's shoulder and then turned to leave. As the sect master, amidst external sieges, he had numerous matters to deal with. Taking the time to meet Su Jie was a significant sign of his regard for him. You could have chosen anything, but you chose the Puppet Hall. Do you even know puppetry techniques? No sooner had Zhang Junwei left than Taoist Chiu couldn't help himself, looking at Su Jie as though disappointed. These puppetry techniques, very few in the entire sect were proficient, transmitted only through Peng Tannen's lineage. Naturally, Taoist Chiu did not know them either, and he didn't believe Su Jie did. Master, I can learn it. I'm quite confident in my ability to learn. Just you wait and see. I'll bring you something big when the time comes. As for puppetry techniques, although Su Jie had not studied them before, he had indeed practiced them. The 1,000-handed centipede used to bombard Putuo Airport with an 800mm caliber biological cannon could also be considered a form of puppetry technique, as it incorporated quite a bit of spiritual material. Of course, the biological cannon of that scale relied more on the powerful physical division capabilities of the 1,000-handed centipede, powered entirely by Su Jie's Purple Cloud Divine Thunder, and wasn't considered orthodox puppetry. I don't expect any surprises from you. Wouldn't it be better if we just played with insects? Can puppetry even feed us? Taoist Chiu was quite dismissive and said bluntly, That Peng Tannen, I've dealt with him before. His puppetry is indeed skillful. Some of his mechanical men and demon statues had some combat power. But in a fight, your master here would definitely win. I could simply wear him out. Su Jie knew that there probably wasn't any exaggeration in Taoist Chiu's words. Puppet masters use various spiritual materials to create combat puppets, controlling them through spiritual power for battle. Generally, the stronger the combat puppet, the more precious the required spiritual materials, and the cost is extremely high. Compared to Gu Masters, not far from Ghost Ridge Palace was Insect Valley, naturally convenient for sourcing materials. Even the most ordinary disciples could capture poisonous insects with virtually no cost involved. While a puppet master labors to create expensive combat puppets, pitted against a Gu Master's swarm of insects, even if both were completely lost, the Gu Master could quickly resupply in Insect Valley, whereas the puppet master would have to spend money and effort to rebuild anew. Not that the puppet masters aren't capable, but within Ghost Ridge Palace, their cost-effectiveness is clearly inferior to that of Gu Masters. Master, I know all that you've said, but I really want to study puppetry techniques. I feel they could be quite lucrative. Su Jie chuckled, sharing another perspective. Make money? Taoist Chiu gave a look as though treating him like a fool, disdainfully said, You think I don't know about puppetry techniques? Researching this is the most costly thing. Peng Tannen himself was in heavy debt, and he still owed me 30,000 spirit stones, which he never paid back. When he died, that was the end of it. I have no idea who to get my money back from. The surrounding elders couldn't help but snicker, marveling at Su Jie's wildly imaginative ideas. Mr. Su, you haven't yet studied puppetry techniques and don't know. This magic is the most expensive to indulge in. To power combat puppets, even a decent quality puppet uses top-grade spirit stones as a power source. Just think about it, a single top-grade spirit stone alone is worth thousands of low-grade spirit stones, not to mention other rare spiritual materials. The wood must be made of various spirit trees, which best conduct energy, combined with various divine ores to construct them. After a major battle, if many puppets are damaged, you would even lose your undershorts in compensation. Elder Peng Tannen frequently fretted about money during his lifetime. Many elders lent him money, all because researching puppetry techniques was too costly. In Ghost Ridge Palace, once you study puppetry techniques, you'll understand poison refining is the most worthwhile. The elders started advising Su Jie not to think too much. If researching puppetry techniques could make money, the puppetry lineage wouldn't be ignored within the territory of Ghost Ridge Palace, with only a very few disciples following Elder Peng Tannen to learn it. I'll show everyone my achievements in the future, Master. That. Su Jie looked at his master, feeling a bit embarrassed and rubbed his hands. You haven't started studying puppetry techniques yet, and now you want to borrow money from me? Taoist Chiu began to puff up his beard and glare. If it had been someone else, they would probably have been scared stiff. Su Jie spread his hands and said, Master, after all, I am your disciple. Seeing how poor your disciple is now, please support me with some spiritual materials. I don't need your money, it's just that starting the puppet hall is too difficult. Surely you wouldn't want your disciple to end up on the streets because of studying puppetry techniques, tarnishing your reputation. You rascal, it seems you haven't learned anything else. But you've fully learned Peng Tannen's ability to borrow money. Taoist Chiu had no way to handle Su Jie, and although he spoke strictly, he eventually relented. Our refining hall can lend a portion of spiritual materials to your puppet hall at an internal price. Note, this is a loan and you must pay it back. The sect is currently at a critical juncture in the war. Any spiritual material can be used for making magic artifacts. It should not be wasted. Thank you, Master. Your words are enough for me. I will make full use of these spiritual materials. Su Jie showed a smile. Having a backing like a master was beneficial, as many things within Ghost Ridge Palace could be expedited. Otherwise, even if Su Jie wanted to buy them with spirit stones, due to the sex war situation, the outside trade was almost cut off, and the prices of various spiritual materials had soared to terrifying levels. Even in Ghost Ridge Palace, the spiritual materials were supported by past strategic reserves, specifically used for producing various magic artifacts and arrays. Although Su Jie had over 100,000 spirit stones, buying a batch of precious materials at outside prices wouldn't go far. And besides those 100,000 spirit stones, Su Jie still needed them for his cultivation and other purposes. Taoist Chiu shook his head. He cherished Su Jie primarily because Su Jie was a once-in-a-century immortal seed of Ghost Ridge Palace, and that was his reason for supporting Su Jie. If it had been Pei Haibing from before, he would have been told to get lost long ago. Su Jie was a rising star whom even the sect master would curry favor with, not just any ordinary disciple could compare. After receiving the authorization letter and seal from Taoist Chiu, Su Jie left the residence and headed straight for the refining hall. Elder Su, a manager at the entrance, saw Su Jie and immediately approached with a flattering smile. Su Jie's promotion to the secret realm had already spread throughout Ghost Ridge Palace. Apart from disciples still fighting in the forest, there was no one in the palace who didn't know. Call me Master Su. I'm now the hall master of the puppet hall. Su Jie, smiling, took out Taoist Chiu's letter and said, I am here to collect some spiritual materials. This is a letter from your vice hall master. After reading it, the manager was a bit surprised, but seeing the correct seal, he nodded and said, Master Su, please wait a moment. I'll have someone check and bring the spiritual materials right away. Half an hour later, Su Jie received a large amount of spiritual materials. The quantity and value of these materials, even at internal price, amounted to 70 to 80,000 spirit stones. At the outside black market price, it would be astronomically higher. With Taoist Chiu's endorsement, Su Jie successfully obtained the right to use this batch of spiritual materials. Of course, it was something he needed to return eventually. After finishing all this, Su Jie intended to go straight to the puppet hall, but he realized he didn't know the way. Junior brother Su, no, I should call you Elder Su now. Just then, a charming and seductive laugh sounded, carrying hints of allure. Su Jie turned his head and saw a graceful figure standing there, her light yellow long dress brushing gently over her smooth, jade-like skin, her hair flowing like clouds in the wind, her face stunningly beautiful, her eyes deep like autumn waters, her eyebrows like distant green hills, her light robe slightly fluttering, the pale skin beneath semi-visible, her demeanor both inviting and hesitant, stoking boundless imagination. This woman was none other than Su Jie's senior sister Yu Wanxian, who had not been seen for a long time. She stood outside the refining hall, apparently also there to purchase magic artifacts. Senior Yu, what a coincidence! Su Jie hadn't expected to encounter Yu Wanxian here. In the past, he had always been cautious around this woman, but times had changed, and seeing her now, Su Jie no longer had that overly cautious attitude. You call me senior sister. I hardly dare accept it. You are now a respected elder, and it would not be proper to be heard by others. Senior Yu is just joking, isn't she? We know each other from before, spent a few years as senior sister and junior brother. If I were to change how I address you just because I've ascended to the secret realm, others would say I've forgotten my roots. Su Jie smiled as he spoke, while sensing the flow of spiritual energy in Yu Wanxian. This woman seemed to have noticed this, and without hiding or concealing it, deliberately displayed her internal spiritual energy, revealing herself to be at the complete 10 levels of the Yunling realm. Yu Wanxian's eyebrows curved as she said, Junior brother Su, then I'll be bold. Speaking of which, I am quite behind you, you see. I'm only at the 10 levels of the Yunling realm now, and you've already caught up and advanced to the secret realm. Compared to you, I have been too negligent. Watching your flow of energy, it is already complete and satisfying, hinting at an imminent breakthrough. It seems the breakthrough is near, he observed. Su Jie spoke. His words were not flattery, for the flow of energy from Yu Wanxian truly was extremely complete, emanating a natural and polished light, as if she could break through at any moment. Then I'll take your auspicious words, junior brother Su. If I really break through, I'll definitely treat you well, she said. Yu Wanxian pursed her lips, constantly smiling coquettishly, her eyes full of seductive allure, and her ample bosom heaving with her laughter, which was enough to stir hearts and minds. Hee, no need for treatment, elder sister Yu. If you can break through, it would strengthen the power of our lineage, and I would be too delighted to care, he laughed. Su Jie would not really accept Yu Wanxian's invitation to her soft couch. He outright refused the so-called treat. This woman was always very mysterious, having instilled fear among numerous inner sect disciples in the past, not just because of her control over the mother-child love poisonous insect, but also due to her own strength. Su Jie had never seen her life poisonous insect, nor had he heard anyone else mention it, which proved many things. That was, whoever had seen her life poisonous insect had already died. Dead people naturally don't spill secrets. Thus, even though Su Jie had advanced to the secret realm, he did not underestimate this woman. Elder sister Yu, I still have some matters to attend to, so I'll be leaving first, he said. Su Jie shrugged his shoulders, made room, and turned to leave the place. Yu Wenxian stood in the shadow outside the refining hall, watching Su Jie's departing figure, her smiling face gradually becoming solemn as she muttered to herself, "The aura of the Holy Lotus? Does he still have lotus seeds on him? Couldn't be. Did he get the Holy Lotus itself?" Her eyes turned dangerous, and Yu Wenxian clenched her fingers into a fist. Originally, the 9-grade sacred lotus was shattered during the fierce battle between Ghost Ridge Palace and the righteous sects, destroying only its lotus bud and seeds. The true body of the 9-grade sacred lotus wasn't something that those in the secret realm or Taoist platform realm could shatter. Its whereabouts now unknown. Junior brother Su. This immortal seed itself had already charmed me. But now with this holy lotus, I admire you even more, she said. Yu Wenxian returned to her bedchamber, stood before a mirror, and bit her fingertip, letting her blood drip onto it. Half a minute later, various sceneries appeared in the mirror, as if soaring across thousands of mountains and rivers, eventually entering a mysterious peach blossom hot spring. Sounds of silvery laughter and seductive panting echoed from the mirror. In the hot spring, several women dressed in thin, revealing gauze lounged, their elegant bodies displayed, their smooth arms and long legs highlighted, their skin as white as jade. Occasionally, water splashed around, scattering fragrant peach blossoms, which fell on the charming figures, creating an enchantingly beautiful scene that made one's mouth go dry and tongue tingle. The scenery then shifted, focusing on a woman who just emerged from the hot spring, appearing as a fresh lotus out of water. This woman had a radiant and delicate complexion, light makeup accentuating her eyebrows, her eyes brimming with vivacity, and her skin as tender as warm jade. Her lips were as delicate as flowers, her waist so fine it could seemingly be encompassed by a hand. Her allure unparalleled, beautiful as if she were a fairy not of this mortal world. Both her figure and appearance far surpassed Yu Wenxian. How is the situation progressing? Any clues? This woman spoke softly, her voice melodious and gentle, like stream water trickling and willow branches swaying, low and soft yet charmingly alluring. Sect Master, I haven't found where the Holy Lotus itself is yet. Yu Wenxian responded softly, a hint of self-reproach on her face. Originally, only Ghost Ridge Palace discovered the Qinglu Earth Spirit River to be suitable for the growth of the 9-grade sacred lotus. You were ordered to infiltrate Ghost Ridge Palace to plant the sect's sacred artifact in the Qinglu Earth Spirit River. But in the end, our Desire sect came away empty-handed. The woman's voice from the mirror couldn't be discerned as either happy or angry, just slightly sighing. Sect Master, although I haven't found the 9-grade sacred lotus itself, I found some important clues. Additionally, I've also discovered an immortal seed. Yu Wenxian quickly spoke, sharing all her findings from inside Ghost Ridge Palace. An immortal seed? You mean he might carry the 9-grade sacred lotus on him? After hearing this, the woman in the mirror showed disbelief and then said, "Regardless of whether there is a holy lotus, an immortal seed is nevertheless rare. You should bring him in for dual cultivation. This will compensate for your faults, and I will have the sect elders aid you. Meanwhile, continue to search for the holy lotus itself. The sect's sacred artifact must not be spied upon or usurped by others." "Yes, sect master, I will accomplish it." Yu Wenxian knelt on the ground, assuring the figure. The mirror image gradually faded, leaving only a soft sound coming through. Complete the mission soon so your infiltration can also end early, and you may return to the Desire sect. Return. Watching the dissipating image in the mirror, Yu Wenxian's eyes filled with longing and nostalgia, as she pondered various plans in her mind. As for Su Jie, it was impossible to take him by force. She could only resort to the combined strengths of other forces within the Desire sect for any chance of success. Junior brother Su, don't blame your elder sister. Becoming the Desire sect's cauldron isn't a disgrace to your talents, she murmured, suddenly thinking of something. as Yu Wenxian flicked her hair at her temples, revealing a tipsy, captivating smile. An immortal seed was enough for her to take risks, let alone the hint of a 9-grade sacred lotus on Su Jie. Su Jie asked around for directions, and this time he finally found the location of the puppet hall. It was situated at the edge of the Mountain Gates territory. That wasn't really a problem. Many departments like the refining hall had their risks, such as explosions occurring from failed artifact refining. This place, it truly is dilapidated. Su Jie looked at the puppet hall. Although it covered a large area, it was very old inside. The wooden vermilion door was mottled and peeling. Stubborn weeds grew through the gaps in the blue stone pavement of the courtyard. The iron railings were speckled with rust, and the corners of the roof beams had become a haven for spider webs. Creak. Su Jie pushed open the semi-closed door and confidently stepped inside. Brother Zhu, the poison demon vine extract is ready. Do you think we need to dry it further and extract the fibers? Take this Shenbing stone for grinding. We need it in powder form to enhance the puppet's resistance to cold. The movements of this puppet arm are too rough. Who was in charge of handling this? I can't even straighten the arm. Top-grade spirit stone? Where am I supposed to find you a top-grade spirit stone now? Just make do with mid-grade spirit stones. A little less power is not too bad. Bursts of discussion came from the yard. About 30 disciples were busily engaged there, some processing materials, others assembling puppets, and some testing the puppets' functionalities. Su Jie did not immediately approach to disturb them but stood aside and watched. He saw the disciples clearly divided their tasks on a vast, flat ground, using their physical prowess far beyond that of ordinary people to calibrate and train a combat puppet standing 2.5 meters tall. This combat puppet was covered in a bright blue color, with a round head that featured gems as eyes and sensors. The body was similar to that of an ordinary person, with broad feet and arms that could freely extend and retract. The materials used were extraordinary, including purple rime gold mulberry wood, polar crystals, moon spirit iron, poison demon vine, and earth flame steel bone. As Su Jie's divine sense swept over the area, he recognized that even the spiritual materials he knew were worth over 2,000 spirit stones. If one considered the 7 or 8 mid-grade spirit stones used as the driving source, the cost of such a combat puppet was approaching 3,000 spirit stones, enough to empty the entire fortune of an ordinary inner disciple. Such a combat puppet, gauged by the depressions it made on the ground, weighed nearly 10 tons. Once the combat puppet was adjusted, the test was conducted by a topless, burly man whose voice was extraordinarily loud. Move aside, move aside. I'm going to test this angry flame puppet now. The burly man shouted, and the surrounding disciples hurriedly scattered, gathering at another side to watch. Su Jie naturally blended into the crowd, observing with the others. Heave, angry flame one. Target the rock ahead. The brawny man manipulated the spell, and the 2 gemstone eyes of the blue puppet shone brilliantly. Its heavy body moved in light footwork, flowing nearly at ground level at high speed. Whoosh! A miniature formation emerged on the puppet's surface, and brilliant blue flames blazed furiously, igniting the entire body. It then swung its fists at a foam mountain 10 meters high in front of it. Boom! The blue flames transformed into a dragon-like fire, instantly blasting the foam mountain into fragments. Large pieces of broken rock flew through the air, stirring cheers among the group of disciples. Puff, puff, puff. The puppet opened its mouth, spewing a series of fireballs accurately at the falling rocks, further blasting them into smaller pieces, showcasing its long-range attack capabilities. The next moment, the puppet slammed powerfully into a solidly cast steel plate, directly deforming and indenting the steel plate while staying undamaged itself, demonstrating a good defense capability. Finally, in testing its strength and speed, the puppet was capable of achieving speeds over 100 meters per second. If not for the concern of spirit stone energy consumption, its highest speed could break 300 meters, and it could lift steel columns weighing hundreds of tons. After a series of tests, the arena immediately erupted in applause. The disciples' faces were elated, and they began discussing excitedly. This angry flame puppet is really not bad. Based on combat capability, it must have the strength of a 4th-grade puppet, right? Definitely, Brother Zhu is really amazing. He designed this puppet all by himself. Let's make more of them. With our speed, we can produce one in half a month. Are you paying? The costs for this angry flame puppet were only gathered by everyone scrimping and saving. The mood slightly dampened towards the end of the discussion. I can sponsor some. Just then, a voice suddenly rose. Who wants to sponsor us? The group of disciples looked around and soon noticed Su Jie speaking. Who are you? The disciples looked surprised, realizing that a stranger had mixed into their group. Your awareness for security is completely lacking. Su Jie shook his head. These disciples had probably not left the puppet hall for days while working on the angry flame puppet and were unaware of the major event of Su Jie's advance to the secret realm. Wait, your brother Su. Suddenly, a disciple recognized Su Jie's face. As the first among disciples, his face was well recognized in Ghost Ridge Palace, even by these disciples who spent all their days in the puppet hall doing research. Elder Su. Meanwhile, the burly man who was testing the angry flame puppet suddenly shouted out, his face full of shock. Ah, Elder. The surrounding disciples were collectively stunned, their eyes filled with astonishment. Brother Su advanced to the secret realm, and his breakthrough even triggered a heavenly phenomenon. I saw it when I was outside earlier. The muscular disciple began to explain, and then moved closer to Su Jie. Curious. Elder Su, I am Zhu Zhangqi, the senior disciple from the puppet hall and have been managing it since the master's death. I wonder what brings you here this time. Zhu Zhangqi felt puzzled inside. He hadn't heard of any interaction between his master Peng Tannen and Su Jie in his teacher's lifetime. That's not right. Although there was no interaction with Su Jie, his master did have dealings with Taoist Qiu and even owed him money. And Su Jie was Taoist Qiu's disciple. Couldn't be that he was here to... Zhu Zhangqi's face turned awkward, and he stiffly said, Elder Su, we really don't have any money right now. Could we please have some time to breathe? Seeing Su Jie sizing up the angry flame puppet, Zhu Zhangqi clenched his teeth, stamped his foot, and said with great reluctance, Elder Su, if you fancy this puppet, you can take it to offset part of the debt. The surrounding disciples, upon hearing this, immediately showed faces full of reluctance. This puppet had been painstakingly built after the death of Peng Tannen. They could hardly bear to see it seized before it even had warmed up. Yet facing Su Jie, a seemingly bleak future young elder, who would dare to utter a word of refusal, especially since their puppet hall indeed owed Taoist Qiu's master money. Su Jie's face held a mischievous smile, aware that they had misunderstood his intentions, and he squeezed Zhu Zhangqi's shoulder. Yunling Realm 8th level cultivation, not bad. Upon hearing this, Zhu Zhangqi shuddered, thinking of those demon cultivators within the sect who used living people to feed insects for practicing human worm refining technique, his face turning deathly pale. Su Jie couldn't possibly be satisfied with just obtaining a combat puppet but also want to use him as an add-on, could he? Now that his master Peng Tannen had passed away, no one was there to stand up for him. Elder Su, my strength certainly isn't worthy of your attention. Not at all noteworthy, absolutely not noteworthy. Zhu Zhangqi tried to step back, but his shoulder felt like it was clamped by steel pliers, completely immobile. No, I see great potential in you. This statement from Su Jie caused Zhu Zhangqi's legs to go weak, his face utterly bloodless. Seeing Zhu Zhangqi's expression, Su Jie stopped teasing him and lightly laughed. Okay, I was just joking with you. Let me correct one mistake. Don't call me Elder Su. You should call me Hall Master. Hall Master. Zhu Zhangqi stared blankly at Su Jie, finally reacting after a long moment, his pupils shaking, his mouth gaping, realizing that Su Jie hadn't come to collect debts. Yes, starting today, I, Su Jie, will assume the position of Hall Master of the Puppet Hall. The token representing the Hall Master of the Puppet Hall was raised high by Su Jie, its authority and unique array undeniable and impossible to forge. After a moment of stunned silence, all the disciples knelt on one knee, chanting in unison, "Disciples of the puppet hall, we greet our hall master." At this moment, the disciples' eyes were filled with immense excitement, including Zhu Zhangqi, who had been frightened earlier, now showing a face brimming with exhilaration. With Su Jie, a cultivator from the secret realm, as their hall master, the puppet hall would now have a strong backing. Ever since Peng Tannen's demise, the days for Puppet Hall had grown increasingly difficult. Already unpopular, now without a secret realm cultivator, their plight was imaginable. "Enough, tell me about the affairs of the Puppet Hall." Su Jie waved his hand, not fond of these formalities. "Hall Master, currently the Puppet Hall covers 130 acres, including 36 disciples and over 150 human servants. Apart from me, an inner disciple, all other disciples are from the outer sect. Additionally, we currently possess just this one puppet, the Angry Flame, and own assets totaling just over 1,000 spirit stones." Zhu Zhangqi hurriedly reported the current state of the puppet hall. "Elder Peng didn't leave you any inheritance?" Su Jie asked skeptically. It sounded too impoverished for a division of the sect. Zhu Zhangqi smiled bitterly and replied, "Our puppet hall has always operated at a loss. After the old master passed away, many creditors showed up, and the remaining spiritual materials and puppets were all used to pay off the debts." Speaking of these bitter matters, Zhu Zhangqi's face showed nothing but helplessness. In the past, relying on Peng Tannen's influence, others were willing to extend credit. But now that Peng Tannen had passed away, with him gone, the affectionate treatment faded, and being an inner disciple alone was not substantial enough in the eyes of those creditors. Fortunately, now there was Su Jie. Otherwise, it would be quite normal for Puppet Hall to face bankruptcy and closure any day. "It seems I have to start from scratch with this mess I've taken over." Su Jie smiled. He had long anticipated the difficulties Puppet Hall would face. "My master did leave some assets, which are various puppet blueprints, including the design concepts for 7th grade puppets. It's just that we lack money and materials, and our techniques are a bit rough, preventing us from replicating them." Zhu Zhangqi felt very embarrassed, troubled by the lack of funds. "Which magic is practiced in Puppet Hall?" "It's this Yin God puppet technique, also known as puppet manipulation technique. It uses spiritual material as the foundation, spirit stones as the kinetic energy, and utilizes the cultivator's blood, divine soul, and the essence of Yin meridians for remote control to manipulate various combat puppets with spiritual power." Zhu Zhangqi took out a booklet and a jade scroll. The former was Peng Yanen's manuscript, filled with many annotations and research insights he had left behind. The latter was the fundamental mental method of Yin God puppet technique, which was also key for animating the puppets. Su Jie took them over and absorbed the knowledge inside, which was much more extensive than he had imagined. Just the material component alone required consideration of various properties like tensility, strength, elasticity, and resistance to stretching. Some spiritual materials with properties, like flaming sky crystals, would continue to emit light and heat, and the conflicts and interference of these additional abilities must also be considered. This was just the beginning. He had to ingeniously assemble these materials in combination with spirit stones for power output, and engrave micro-arrays inside to establish the corresponding energy transmission channels. In order for combat puppets to possess a certain level of battle intelligence, it was necessary to prepare a divine heart stone in advance and input lots of corresponding battle data into the puppet through the Jade Scroll transfer method. That way, when numerous puppets were controlled in battle, they wouldn't be overwhelmed. Only then would they be real puppets. Then, by integrating one's own blood and essence into the puppet, one could manipulate it remotely using spiritual power. Su Jie's head grew bigger. The amount of knowledge was massive. In Su Jie's understanding, it required material science, dynamics, electronic technology, automation control, and many other complex fields of knowledge. Being able to design a combat puppet alone was definitely the work of a capable person. "Hall Master, which school of puppetry did you learn before?" Zhu Zhangqi asked curiously. Previously in Ghost Ridge Palace, only Peng Tannen's lineage practiced Yin God puppet technique, and in Zhu Zhangqi's view, Su Jie must also have mastered puppetry skills since he was willing to become the Hall Master of Puppet Hall. "I've never learned puppetry before." Su Jie shook his head. Ah! Zhu Zhangxi's mouth twitched, and the surrounding disciples were also completely perplexed. Who would have thought the one to assume the role of hall master of Puppet Hall, Su Jie, had never learned puppetry. This edge department of Puppet Hall had little to offer, and everyone wondered why Su Jie wanted to take on the role of hall master. Hall master, with your talents, learning puppetry will surely be a breeze for you. Besides all the scriptures and puppet designs left by the master, I will pass them all to you. You will definitely elevate our Puppet Hall. After a moment of shock, Zhu Zhangxi immediately switched to flattering. No matter whether Su Jie had learned puppetry before or not, with Su Jie stationed in Puppet Hall, his mere presence was enough to intimidate the riffraff. The current state of Ghost Ridge Hall was desperate for revival, and having Secret Realm's attention on this was more than a joyous affair. Enough flattery, it's useless. I'll study this God puppet technique carefully in the next few days. For now, show me around Puppet Hall. Su Jie didn't care about others' opinions. He already had some ideas in mind. In the following period, Su Jie explored Puppet Hall, familiarizing himself with his future domain. Afterward, he treated the 36 disciples to a good meal, then went back to delve into the studies of puppetry. Blue Star, Jiwei City. On the streets, fleets of heavy-duty trucks, excavators, cranes, bulldozers, and other engineering vehicles bustled back and forth, clearing away the ruins and dangerous buildings caused by the war. Many refugees, displaced by the war, were settled outside the city, where Jekka Group had built vast expanses of simple prefabricated houses in just a few days. Please rest assured, everyone. We at Jekka Group will rebuild damaged houses for each family, and they will be even bigger and more beautiful than before. Under the scorching sun, Lu Yingying stood holding a microphone, delivering a speech to these refugees who had lost their homes. Everyone, please live here peacefully for a while. If you have problems with food, go to the canteen we have set up. Those of you with able-bodied family members, regardless of gender, can come and do some work within Jekka Group. In terms of wages, our pay will be more than double the local minimum wage. Our company, Jekka, is here to liberate you all, not to acquire territory and become a warlord, she declared. The refugees below were deeply moved, shedding tears of gratitude. Many had lost relatives under the indiscriminate artillery fire by the Chan Country Government Army and had thought that Jekka Group's occupation of G-State would also bear the style of warlords. Unexpectedly, not only did Jekka Group compensate the deceased victims, but they also rebuilt houses and took in the elderly and orphans displaced by the war, providing new jobs for everyone. Even the cleanup work inside the city paid much more than what these ordinary people used to earn. After finishing her speech, Lu Yingying immediately had Jekka's staff distribute various supplies, clothing, medicine, and non-perishable food, among other things. After busying herself for a bit, Lu Yingying wiped the sweat from her forehead. She was doing this kind of work nearly every day. After the recovery of G-State, she had traveled to every city in G-State and nearly every industrial area, delivering speeches to stabilize people's hearts. As the second-in-command of Jekka Group, in the days when Su Jie was not around, she took on many responsibilities, even losing 7 or 8 pounds. President Lu, we received a tip and have captured a gang involved in robbery and murder in the refugee area. How would you like to proceed? A Jekka security officer came over and saluted Lu Yingying respectfully. Lu Yingying looked up and asked, "Has the criminal evidence been confirmed?" "Yes, it has been confirmed, and many refugees at the scene have identified them. Convene a temporary tribunal, announce these people's crimes, and then carry out a public firing squad execution to deter other criminals." Understood. After saluting, the officer turned and went to make arrangements. Not even an hour had passed, and in a clearing in the refugee area, witnessed by many refugees, a group of criminals were executed with guns to the back of their heads. As the gunshots rang out, a mighty cheer erupted from the refugees present. Lu Yingying watched all this in silence, reflecting that in the past, she could never have imagined being so ruthless in deciding the fate of dozens of people's lives. But after following Su Jie to Chan Country and undergoing various trials, She had grown capable of facing life and death without changing her expression, without even offering those criminals a chance to be jailed. In these chaotic times, strict measures were necessary. For those who dared to loot amidst the chaos, profiteer from national disasters, and bully war refugees, Lu Yingying acted swiftly and severely, offering an all-in-one service from capture and trial to the execution. Buzz buzz. Just then, Lu Yingying's personal phone rang. After picking up the call and hearing the familiar voice on the other end, a smile appeared on Lu Yingying's face. After a few words, she decisively ended the call and instructed her secretary, "Hui Hui, get the car ready. We're going back to the company." JECA Group Building. Su Jie, I've put all the paper-based technology diagrams you wanted in the warehouse, Lu Yingying said as she walked in, her preparations complete. Thank you, Su Jie nodded, then patted his thigh. Closing the door, Lu Yingying's cheeks turned slightly red as she sat on Su Jie's lap. How did you lose so much weight? Su Jie, caressing Lu Yingying's slender waist, immediately noticed the change in her. Really? I haven't paid much attention. Perhaps I've lost a bit of weight with all the running around lately. Make sure to get plenty of rest. Don't wear yourself out, he admonished as he pinched Lu Yingying's cheek, asking, any problems in G-State lately? G-State is doing fairly well. Industry is resuming production in an orderly manner, and public sentiment has stabilized. We're also recruiting and training new troops. Additionally, many of the 50,000 Chan country soldiers captured at Jinlao Mountain are willing to join our JECA group. After screening these recruits and with this new source of troops, our overall military strength has reached 120,000, capable of being deployed directly to the battlefield, primarily consisting of mountain light infantry. A greater number of soldiers are still in training. We have compressed the training cycle, so once they are in service, they will be placed behind the front lines, paired in groups with one experienced soldier leading 4 new soldiers. Unless the battle situation is extremely unfavorable, we won't send them directly to the front line. Currently, including those in training, our total military strength has reached 240,000, organized into 2 heavy composite brigades, for mechanized infantry divisions, 12 mountain infantry divisions, 1 aviation group, 1 army aviation brigade, and 3 artillery brigades. Many of our equipment still has shortfalls which we are slowly addressing to fill these gaps. Lu Yingying was reporting to Su Jie on the current development of JECA Group, with the military being, of course, the most important aspect. The war between JECA Group and the 8-Nation Group has not ended. Neither side has even reached a ceasefire agreement. Currently, the ceasefire is merely both sides tacitly licking their wounds and accumulating strength in preparation for what will surely be an even more astonishing and fierce battle next time. That's why JECA Group is furiously increasing its troop numbers. Of course, in the Asian Monster Room region, the number of JECA Group soldiers can only be considered moderate. North Korea, with a population of over 25 million, has an army of over 1.3 million. With only half the population of North Korea, JECA Group has a 240,000-strong military, which is not considered excessively militaristic. 240,000 soldiers, the financial pressure must be significant. Su Jie was tapping his fingers on the table. The number of soldiers more than most countries have. Like those established nations of the UK, France, Germany, and others in Europe, their military strength is also around 200,000 nowadays. Undoubtedly, they have the luxury of a peacetime military due to a streamlined force, but this also relates to the exceedingly expensive nature of maintaining and cultivating an army. Lu Yingying nodded repeatedly, her face full of worry, and said, there is indeed a lot of pressure. I've seen the military's budget, and due to our soldiers' high pay, just the salaries account for a significant portion of the expenses. Plus, we recently procured a large shipment of military weapons and ammunition to prepare for the upcoming war, including a new fleet of fighter jets, air defense missiles, armored vehicles, etc. Our military spending for this year might exceed $30 billion, with outside weapons purchases being particularly costly. We have tried to rely on G-State's local industry to produce some light weapons, ammunition, and armored vehicles. If successful, our military expenses will decrease by a tier. Beyond military spending, to maintain the high wages and extensive civil construction in East Chin State and G State, we've consumed a vast amount of funds. Even after imposing some taxation locally, it's not enough to meet our needs. JECA Group's profits are completely invested back in. If we were to occupy more territory with the current revenue of JECA Group, we would quickly exceed the limit we can sustain. After listening, Su Jie fell into contemplation. JECA Group, solely relying on Tianyuan hair growth liquid, could achieve a monthly revenue of $10 billion with a net profit margin of around 60 to 70%. But as the saying goes, once the cannons fire, gold amounts to 10,000 taels. Armies are gold-consuming beasts, and to cope with external military threats, JECA Group can only procure various weapons and ammunition at high costs. Imported arms at a minimum are marked up by 50%, and it is normal for some to be sold at several times or even more than 10 times their price. Taking the major northern nation as an example, with an army of over 2 million, their annual military expenditure is over $200 billion. In comparison, JECA Group has only 1/10 of their troop numbers. Although JECA Group currently lacks a navy and has only just started its air force, the main strength still lies in the army, lacking two major gold-consuming branches. But just the army's ammunition, personnel living costs, training and maintenance, and equipment expenses have already consumed a huge amount of capital, especially since the newly established army is starting from scratch, with weapon costs remaining high due to rampant purchasing. And JECA Group also has to manage its populace, with the taxes collected locally far from sufficient. As Chan country is a poor nation, wringing out a few coins by squeezing the local resources would only lead to grievances, turning the people against JECA Group, a loss that's not worth the gain. Unless JECA Group wants to follow in the footsteps of the Chan country government and completely neglect the local populace's well-being, halting the massive investment in civil infrastructure and major constructions like the ones currently under construction, roads, bridges, railways, schools, hospitals, power plants, agricultural water projects, and so on, essentially treating Chan country as a poor agrarian nation, there would indeed be hardly any expenses. However, JECA Group's extensive infrastructure projects are fundamentally aimed at winning hearts and minds, maintaining the legitimacy of their rule locally. If all these projects stopped, it would not be conducive to JECA Group's approval ratings or future development and expansion. It seems we need to develop more revenue streams. Relying solely on Tianyuan hair growth liquid is not enough to rejuvenate a nation in dire need of recovery. Su Jie furrowed his brows as he spoke. JECA Group was already one of the companies with the highest net profits in the world. Yet the ongoing war and the investment in civil life and infrastructure made even the cash cow of Tianyuan hair growth liquid insufficient. Su Jie, if we can't manage, we should slow down the construction projects and prioritize military capabilities. We need to survive before considering anything else. Lu Yingying looked at Su Jie somewhat sympathetically, expressing her thoughts. We haven't reached that point yet. I'll find a way to solve the financial issues. Now, tell me about any recent activities from the Eight-Nation Group. Su Jie didn't let Lu Yingying dwell on it, promptly changing the subject. The Eight-Nation Group has been consistently assisting the Chan country government with military aid and issuing military loans. The 20,000 soldiers from Japan have all arrived in Chan country and started adaptability training for the local climate. Additionally, the beautiful country has been slandering us at the United Nations, causing us troubles by branding us as extreme terrorists and asking Europe to join the fight against us. Lu Yingying said with an amused shake of her head. However, Europe didn't take the bait this time, flatly refusing to send troops. It's likely due to our stunning victories in previous battles. They're afraid of suffering losses against us, which might lead to anti-war protests back home and a fall in approval ratings. In short, Europe is unwilling to send troops. It's not hard to understand. Those Europeans are so clever. They see even the Americans don't want to get involved, afraid of getting mired in another Vietnam War quagmire. Su Jie wasn't at all surprised by this. Europe had no significant stakes in Southeast Asia, and naturally, They wouldn't bother coming here to clash with the Jekka group or charge into battle for the beautiful country. Apart from Japan, that loyal dog, the other countries are all watching and waiting. Lu Yingying smiled with pursed lips. As a Hua country person, Lu Yingying naturally had no fondness for Japan. It just goes to show the remote breeding techniques of the beautiful country are highly sophisticated. This raising sons to provide in old age strategy really paid off. Without Japan to fight on their behalf, I wonder if they could bear such casualties if the beautiful country soldiers were to come forward, he said, caressing Lu Yingying's thigh, causing her to let out a chuckle. Recently, Japan's Air Force began to strut their stuff again, making multiple passes at the edge of the airspace over East Chin State and Ji State. However, according to our intelligence, this time Japan has dispersed their airports and built them all in the hinterlands of southern Chan country. Every sortie is accompanied by 2 or 3 extra fuel tanks for long-distance flights, precisely because they fear a repeat of our last surprise attack. The next big war, if it comes to a conflict, will only be fought in high mountain and dense forest environments. Air superiority isn't the main issue here. What we need to guard against is Japanese fighter jets launching attacks in East Chin State and Ji State, bombing our power plants, fuel depots, electronic communications facilities, and weapons factories, crippling our command, control, communications, and intelligence capabilities. How is our underground defense preparation coming along? Asked Su Jie, stroking his chin. Given Japan's nature, they were certainly capable of such a move. If a large number of civilian and military infrastructure was destroyed, it would cause significant problems for the Jekka group. Following your orders, we've trained the locals in the corresponding air raid warning exercises and set up multiple air raid shelters in the city. In addition, we've dug out vast bunkers in the mountains and underground throughout East Chin State and Ji State, stocked up on a mass of communication equipment, fuel and power-generating devices, etc., as well as various munitions and ammunition. We are also using underground bunkers for protection to prevent them from striking at our war potential. Lu Yingying reported everything was progressing smoothly. With the Thousand-Hand Centipede as the main force in the excavation, it was far more formidable than any so-called shield tunneling machine. With various construction machinery, pouring concrete and building in the bunkers was no trouble for the Jekka group. By the way, Su Jie, there have been some movements from our neighbors recently. Our informants found that CIA members have been in touch with those warlords from Chan Country Northern Territory. Lu Yingying suddenly brought up a matter that once again brought the CIA into Su Jie's attention after a long absence. The CIA, it seems they can't stand being idle. Are they trying to bribe those warlords, setting us up for a pincer attack? Su Jie raised an eyebrow, immediately guessing at the CIA's intentions. On the map, Chan Country looked like a diamond-shaped crystal, pointed at both ends and thick in the middle. The territory of the Jekka group currently spanned the upper part of the diamond shape, with East Chin State located mainly in the higher region, and Ji State in the middle, thicker waist. To the south was the domain of the Chan Country Government Army. To the north lay the various scattered warlord territories of Chan Country, who financed their military through opium cultivation and management of various illegal businesses like telecom fraud, gambling, and brothels. The infamous Golden Triangle was situated in this region. These warlords were not obedient to the Chan Country government, and frequently clashed fiercely with the Chan Country Government Army. In the past, it would have been virtually impossible for the Chan Country government to form an alliance with these warlords, as both sides had been locked in conflict for many years and were deeply entrenched in their respective differences. But now, with the CIA meddling, things became unpredictable. You could curse the CIA, but you definitely couldn't doubt their ability to stir up trouble, instigate discord, and create war conflicts. They were top-notch in that regard. We also need to be wary of these warlords now. Lu Yingying felt that there were still too few super soldiers prepared and planned to increase the number of militia training. Those warlords don't amount to much, relying on armies sustained through illegal businesses, with limited combat power and will. It's only because of the vast primeval jungles in the northern territory of Chan Country that they seem formidable. Using jungle and guerrilla warfare, they can make the Chan Country government army run in circles, but against us, when it came to special operations in the jungle, who was more suitable than Steel Camp? It was almost overkill. Even if they only deployed first-class super soldiers from Steel Camp, let alone the second-class and third-class ones, entering such a primal jungle environment would let their individual soldier qualities be fully realized. Without the cover and suppression of heavy weapons firepower, that place was practically heaven for super soldiers. Su Jie, when do you predict the war will break out? Lu Yingying asked the most pressing question. The foreboding atmosphere throughout Chan country was palpable not only to the warring parties but also, the international community generally believed that a monumental war would soon erupt in Chan country. This war could very well determine the fate of Chan country's sovereignty. The war could break out as soon as within 2 months, or within half a year at the latest. Pay attention to the online public opinion. When international public opinion intervention explodes, and when the 8-nation group starts frequent military drills, those will be the precursors to the outbreak of war, Su Jie said in a grave tone. Both the Chan country government and Japan needed time to prepare logistical supplies, as did the JECA group. The consumption of resources in modern warfare is astonishingly high. A single missile costs several million Hua Yuan. The preparation of various supplies before the outbreak of the war, including ammunition, steel, oil, cement, coal, food, medicine, etc., are all critical resources. Neither side would rashly go to war without being fully prepared. Otherwise, if the supply lines were cut during the conflict, it would be an utter tragedy. We can win this. Lu Yingying clenched her small fist and swung it a few times to boost her spirits, albeit feeling a bit uncertain. After all, they were facing the 8-nation group, backed by the beautiful country, the world's superpower, along with Japan, the world's 4th largest economy, and a bunch of minor powerhouses from Southeast Asia. It could be said that in terms of national power, financial resources, and military strength, the 8-nation group surpassed the JECA group by an immeasurable margin. Just considering beautiful country alone, its annual military expenditure neared $1 trillion, accounting for about 40% of the world's military spending. This figure, compared to the JECA group's annual profit of $70 to $80 billion and a military expenditure of $200 to $300 billion, was especially stark, not to mention that the beautiful country brought along a string of allies. Of course, we will win. When have I ever lost? No matter how many enemies come, I will make this primeval jungle of Chan country their graveyard. I'll show those outsiders that the forest can't be simply conquered with technology and weapons. It'll become our perfect slaughterhouse for special operations. Su Jie patted Lu Yingying's head reassuringly. Click, click. A week later, Su Jie was fiddling with a half-meter-tall puppet on the table. The puppet was made of simple spirit wood, with very little precious spiritual material. Couldn't compare to those truly used in battle. God puppet technique. When Su Jie bit his fingertip, letting his blood drop onto the puppet, it immediately started moving with clicks, stepping forward under the control of Su Jie's spiritual power. Jump! Receiving the command, the puppet hopped. Roll, run, squat, backflip, dog paddle with all 4 limbs on the ground. Attack my house's 1,000-hand centipede. Su Jie continuously performed tests. The little puppet got noisy due to its poor material causing severe joint friction. In the end, it even annoyed the sleeping 1,000-hand centipede, which turned over and sent it flying with one flip, the puppet crashing against the wall with a smack, its body cracking twice and completely breaking down. Buzz, buzz. The 1,000-hand centipede turned over and went back to deep sleep. Looks like I have quite a talent for learning puppetry techniques. Despite this, a smile appeared on Su Jie's face. Having practiced the puppetry technique to this extent in just a week, Su Jie considered himself quite gifted. He dismantled the broken puppet, recycling some materials that were still usable, tidied up and left the residence to go to the puppet hall. As with his last visit here, the disciples of the puppet hall had gathered. But this time they weren't fiddling with puppets but were huddled around a drawing board covered with dense drafts of designs, discussing new puppet schemes. Master! Zhu Zhangxi spotted Su Jie and hurriedly stood up. The other disciples followed, getting up to salute, their voices rustling as they ran up near Su Jie. Because a few days earlier, Su Jie had mentioned that he would show them a brand new puppet design, and everyone was curious. "Here are my design drawings." Su Jie didn't keep them in suspense, pulling out a bunch of drawings from his storage bag, the number of which was considerable. Taking one of the weapon structure drawings, Su Jie placed it in front of the drawing board for everyone to see. "What is this, so many tubes?" Zhu Zhangxi leaned in, looking at the weirdly shaped puppet design in front, his head popping up with a bunch of question marks. The design depicted a perfectly square rectangular shell. The front of the shell had dozens of honeycomb-shaped openings, with several round wheels below, similar to car wheels, and a pulling device mostly pulled by oxen or horses. "Is this a puppet? What are all these chimneys for? Such a strange puppet. How does it fight? It doesn't look fast, and there isn't a levitating array on top. It shouldn't be able to fly." A group of Puppet Hall disciples looked utterly baffled. They had played with puppets for many years and seen all kinds of ingenious designs, but they had never seen such a square puppet. "This type of puppet, I call it a rocket artillery," Su Jie explained with a smile, pointing to the rocket artillery drawings, which Lu Yingying had collected for him. Rocket artillery isn't a sophisticated weapon nowadays. Current rocket artillery is advancing towards informatized, digitalized, and intelligent development. Lu Yingying got it from the Mao Bear country, the inventor of rocket artillery, without asking for a price. Hearing that Jekka Company, a super military goods customer, wanted old rocket artillery designs, the Mao Bear country's Ordnance Design Bureau sent a package directly. "Rocket artillery? Master, how does this weapon attack?" Zhu Zhangxi was scratching his head, the currently most skilled puppet master in Puppet Hall, capable of independently designing fourth-grade puppets, yet baffled by this oddly shaped puppet. "Its weapon isn't for close combat but for striking enemies several kilometers away. The specific principle uses spirit stones as kinetic energy to launch this tail-fin rocket ammunition from the barrel, striking distant enemies." As Su Jie spoke, he pointed to a young disciple next to him and smiled. "Zhang Lei, didn't you come up with a kind of jet-type spirit stone kinetic energy device last time? It can be used here. The specifics are on the drawings. Let's start like this." Su Jie took the drawings and began to educate them one by one about the structure of the rocket artillery. Did everyone understand? An hour later, Su Jie looked around at them again. A group of disciples nodded. They were all talents studying puppetry techniques. Although the rocket structure was weird, the principle wasn't complex, and they quickly understood. "Good. Then let's start production. Let's first make a prototype." Su Jie clapped his palms and handed over the design blueprints to them. "Yes, master. But we don't have much spiritual material left in our hall." Zhu Zhangxi was full of confidence, but when it came to spiritual materials and money, his tone immediately sank. "What spiritual materials do you plan to use to make it?" Su Jie asked directly. "I plan to use Bihai iron as the main body. This type of steel is sturdy and heat-resistant with good anti-vibration properties, and it can also improve firing accuracy. Moreover, to make the triggering device more rapid, it would be best to use the Shunri treasure pearl for energy storage. Also, for the tail fins of the rocket, I plan to use golden thread tail feathers." Zhu Zhangxi went on without stopping, already clear in his mind on how to create the rocket artillery Su Jie was talking about. "Stop, stop, stop." Su Jie interrupted Zhu Zhangxi, looking at him with a helpless expression. "Why are you using such good materials? Based on your approach, how high would the cost of this rocket artillery be? But shouldn't puppets use good materials?" Zhu Zhangxi scratched his head, looking quite innocent as he spoke. "You haven't changed your way of thinking. Listen to me, the main body of the rocket should primarily use some lower-grade spirit steel. Except for the spiritual power used in the propulsion, replace all other spiritual materials with the lowest grade possible. Wherever you can save, save." Su Jie commanded without hesitation. Zhu Zhangxi and the other disciples of the Puppet Hall hadn't shifted their thinking and were still thinking of following the high-quality route of past puppet creations. But Su Jie had no intention of doing so. But in that case, the accuracy and stability would greatly decrease. Zhu Zhangxi wanted to argue further, but facing Su Jie's gaze, he eventually bowed his head like a defeated rooster, resignedly. You'll understand why I'm doing this once the prototype comes out. Su Jie waved his hand jokingly. What precision does rocket artillery need? Being able to rapidly pour a large amount of explosives onto the target area, creating a dense barrage with a large coverage area, was already sufficient to meet the requirements. As for precision bombing, that was the goal of cannons and missiles, but compared to other cannons, rocket artillery was easier to produce, making it Su Jie's first choice. Additionally, this is the spiritual material I have borrowed from the refining hall for the puppet hall. If any of you need it in the future, you can come to me for approval, as I'm not against supporting your research in puppetry. Su Jie took out a brand new storage bag filled with spiritual materials he had previously borrowed from the refining hall. Momentarily, the inside of the refining hall was filled with a treasure light, shining brightly with spiritual radiance. Cold gold divine sand, fire essence black gold, star magnetic crystal stone, sky blue silk, heavy iron wood, 10,000-year-old sky blue, auspicious cloud stone milk, Shenbing soul, Nanming leaving firestone, golden thunder bamboo. All the disciples present brightened their eyes. Many of these spiritual materials were advanced grade and worth thousands of spirit stones. Being accustomed to poverty, they were almost too overwhelmed to move upon seeing these materials. Don't just stand there. Start making. Su Jie knew what would motivate these guys the most. Just watch, Master, give us 2 days, no, 1 day. We will make the rocket artillery for you in 1 day. Zhu Zhangqi, as if infused with an adrenaline rush, swung his fist and shouted, Everyone, get moving. Let's craft the rocket so Master Su can witness our capabilities. Let's do it. The disciples rolled up their sleeves and wholeheartedly agreed. Quickly, 36 disciples sprung into action. Some began processing steel, throwing spirit steel or into the furnace to melt using spiritual power, refining the necessary steel liquid. Next to them, some used spiritual power for artificial casting into the specific molds, channeling the steel liquid into them. Others refined the processed steel liquid, further enhancing the strength of the steel, and while the steel was not yet fully set, they tapped on the cast barrel guides with their bare eyes, achieving precision even finer than a ruler. Some started creating the rocket base, others set up the barrels one by one, and some began manufacturing the corresponding rotating mechanisms and aiming devices. The disciples were clearly divided in their tasks, busy as bees. Compared to crafting the exquisite puppets of the past, making the simple and robust rocket artillery was quite a few levels easier, not to mention the extraordinary power of spiritual power which made their production speed soar. Su Jie was not just watching. On those specially made tail-fin rockets, he released human-faced moths from the insect control bag, which spat acid into specially made glass containers, completing the manufacturing of the tail-fin rockets. As afternoon arrived, the first rocket artillery was produced thanks to everyone's joint efforts. It was still the first production and a bit rough with many areas needing a bit of research, but after becoming practiced, the speed would increase even more. As the sun set, a rocket artillery appeared on the ground of the puppet hall. The cold steel body of the vehicle, 32 cold barrel guides arrayed in 4x8 formation, and 220 mm caliber tail-fin rockets placed within them. The wheels underneath formed largely, not of rubber but of a type of resin called yellow dragon liquid, which performed similarly to rubber. Seeing the completed rocket artillery, Su Jie called forth the 1,000-handed centipede and said to Zhu Zhangqi and the others, Come up, let's go test the effectiveness of this weapon. So big. The disciples, having seen Su Jie's widely renowned 1,000-handed centipede, internally marveled at its well-deserved reputation as a mid-grade 5 refinement poisonous insect, and then cautiously climbed onto the back of the 1,000-handed centipede. Su Jie also stored the rocket rounds in the storage bag, guiding the 1,000-handed centipede into the air, ready to find a spot to test the power of the Tianyuan world version of the rocket artillery. Half an hour later, Su Jie arrived at a relatively flat area. He took out the rocket artillery again. This tens of tons big guy was placed on the level ground. Su Jie looked around and then pointed at a spot, saying, See that forest over there? We'll hit that place. Zhu Zhangqi personally went into action, adjusting the orientation and elevation of the rocket projectile to form an angle with the horizon, and after triple-checking everything was correct. Master Su, it's been aimed. Then what are we waiting for, fire? At Su Jie's command, the disciples who had been waiting there pressed the activation device. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. As the spiritual stone propulsion devices at the rear of the rockets were activated in sequence, the rockets emitted rolling spiritual power glows. The 220 millimeters, 280 kilograms tailfin rockets dashed out one after another. In less than 20 seconds, all 32 rockets were launched, their foldable tail fins snapping open, stabilizing the flight of the projectiles. After a brief flight, the rockets fell at the predetermined location. Boom, 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 boom. In the forest designated by Su Jie, 32 rockets landed and exploded, but instead of flames, a large amount of acid splashed out. A terrifying scene unfolded. The trees touched by the acid solution were directly corroded and dissolved, and the ground became pockmarked, dissolving into numerous deep pits. The 32 rockets weren't especially precise, but the area of damage they covered was enormous. The trees within the killing range were in trouble. They looked as if they had been gnawed by dogs. Large ancient trees were corroded and fell, leaving the ground looking like the surface of the moon. This method of attack. Seeing this scene with his own eyes, Zhu Zhangxi suddenly stood up, his mouth forming an O shape, standing there like a wooden man. The other disciples were more or less the same, staring agape as if they had been hit on the head with a stick. In the past, they had been dedicated to researching combat puppets that were stronger in defense, faster, more powerful, and had more capabilities. They had never imagined that a rocket artillery, which seemed so ordinary and as if it had been cobbled together from junk, could deliver such terrifying firepower in a short period of time and strike at an enemy from extreme range. This distance had already far exceeded the limit of what Yunling realm disciples could attack. Even when controlling swarms of insects, it wouldn't reach that far. Little Zhu, how much does one of these rocket artillery vehicles cost to make, and how much does it cost to fire just once? Su Jie chuckled lightly and patted Zhu Zhangxi's shoulder standing beside him. Zhu Zhangxi quickly did some calculations in his mind and exclaimed in surprise. We use cheap materials, so a single rocket artillery vehicle costs around 200 spirit stones. The cost per rocket fired is 3 spirit stones each, plus other materials. The price to produce each rocket projectile is 5 spirit stones. To fire all at once would be just 160 spirit stones, of course. This doesn't include the value of your poisonous insect acid. Such power at such a cost was an extremely high value for money. Though at first glance, firing a salvo of rocket artillery required 160 spirit stones, equivalent to an outer disciple's annual income or the price of a low-grade, lower-level magical artifact. But these 32 rockets covered such an extensive area, and their power was so astonishing, the value for money was incomparable. So now you understand why I wanted to develop this kind of rocket artillery and had you use inexpensive materials. Su Jie's smile grew bigger as he gestured with his hands. Think about it. If we were to possess 100, or even 1,000 of this kind of rocket artillery, all firing at once, can you imagine the scene? Upon hearing this, everyone on site shuddered simultaneously. Zhu Zhangxi finally understood why Su Jie had repeatedly asked him to reduce costs. If indeed they could get a few hundred rocket artillery vehicles, the killing power of firing all at once would be incomparable. Perhaps they couldn't threaten the secret realm and posed little threat to inner sect disciples, but most outer disciples, faced with the overwhelming assault of rocket artillery, would find it difficult to defend effectively and could only hope to dodge quickly enough. Master Su, I understand now. You want to use these rocket artillery pieces to confront those of the righteous sect outside, wreaking havoc on their outer disciples. Zhu Zhangxi became excited. Making such rocket artillery was not difficult for him, and after becoming proficient, the production speed could be made even faster. As long as you understand, our sect is heading into a great battle soon, and this rocket artillery will be our puppet hall's trump card. You start by making 30 rocket artillery vehicles, and then I will personally find the sect master and show him the fruits of our puppet hall's labor. Once we pass the sect master's inspection, funding for the puppet hall will start rolling in. Su Jie laughed heartily, confident that once the rocket artillery's effectiveness was demonstrated, Sect Master Zhang Junwei would not skimp on investing in the war effort. On one hand, this would secure benefits for the puppet hall and also help to establish a reputation for both the puppet hall and for Su Jie himself, facilitating future endeavors. We will do as you say, Master Su. The sect master will definitely see us in a new light. Who would have thought that something so cheap could produce such deadly force? I originally thought that puppets had to be made in human form to maintain their combat capabilities. The many disciples looked on fervently. If they could realize Su Jie's idea, their puppet hall would make a massive impact. After arranging the tasks for the puppet hall in the following days, Su Jie started to study the abilities he had gained mastery over after visiting the secret realm, mainly concerning the modifications of the human body. Later, Su Jie also visited the Alchemy Pavilion. The head of the Alchemy Pavilion was Tang Peiqing, an elder well known to Su Jie. Master Su, please come in quickly. Are you here to see the Pill Master? A disciple from the Alchemy Pavilion scurried over. The recent commotion about Su Jie taking the position of the puppet hall's master had become well known. Many openly said that Su Jie was squandering his great talent and aptitude, so his appointment as a hall master was common knowledge among the Ghost Ridge Palace disciples. Not so fast. I want to ask for your Alchemy Pavilion's help to develop a few kinds of elixirs that can be made from common materials plus blood marrow crystals, with the cost and difficulty of creation being as low as possible. Su Jie took out a piece of paper with his requirements written on it. Slimming pills, whitening powder, nearsighted pills. The disciples who had gathered around were somewhat astonished as they looked at Su Jie's list of requests. Well, Master Su, our Alchemy Pavilion doesn't offer this service. If you want to purchase elixirs, we'll try our best to meet your needs if we have them. One of the disciples replied, somewhat embarrassed. The elixirs Su Jie wanted to be made seemed unusual and didn't appear too difficult to make. It's just that the Alchemy Pavilion had no precedent for such requests. The payment will certainly not be shortchanged, Su Jie stated. With a pat to his storage bag at his waist, a series of mid-grade spirit stones emerged and floated in the air. Gurgle. The disciples' eyes widened, and they swallowed hard, hearts racing with excitement. Ha ha! Su Jie, when you come to my territory, how can you not contact me first? At this moment, a burst of laughter sounded. Elder Tang Peiqing appeared in sight, obviously informed by the disciples. Elder Tang, I was planning to look for you after dealing with some matters, Su Jie replied with a smile, explaining his intentions. These types of elixirs, are for mortals? Elder Tang Peiqing glanced at the list of elixirs and realized that these were made specifically for mortals. In the past, some wealthy cultivators refined such potions for the sake of their descendants in the mortal world. The difficulty shouldn't be too great. Please do me a favor, Elder Tang. The alchemists were like the chemists of the Tianyuan world, capable of creating amazing elixirs for regenerating limbs, increasing cultivation, and explosive improvements in battle. As long as they dedicated their efforts, they would certainly be able to develop the elixirs Su Jie had requested. And Su Jie's pursuit of these elixirs was also to increase the revenue streams for the Jekka Group, creating new flagship products besides the Tianyuan hair growth liquid, to avoid a shortage of funds. A small matter. You guys go and work on the research. Elder Tang Peiqing brushed it off as trivial, directing a few disciples to assist Su Jie with the task, leaving them with faces full of joy at the rare opportunity to earn extra money. Afterward, Su Jie entered Tang Peiqing's reception room, where the two enjoyed tea, played chess, and conversed. Your master, Taoist Chiu, mentioned that you've been studying human body modification techniques recently. Elder Tang Peiqing casually inquired while playing chess. Mainly because advancing to the secret realm gave me a new understanding of our sect's 100 poison refining Gu scripture and the 3 secrets of Gu Master. I'm looking to make breakthroughs by trying to modify human bodies. Su Jie opened his left hand, and a human-faced moth appeared on it. As Su Jie fed its spirit stones, the moth's size expanded, becoming stronger. Elder Tang, now that I have the ability to transform poisonous insects, I was wondering if it's possible to apply this ability to the human body, compensating for the Gu Master's weakness in close combat. I heard from my master that you had researched a cultivation technique in this area before, so I wanted to ask for your advice. Elder Tang Peiqing asked, why not directly learn the human worm refining technique? That can fundamentally alter the weakness in close combat. Elder Tang, the human worm refining technique has some dangerous side effects. If something goes wrong, it could lead to serious problems. Su Jie shook his head. He couldn't bring himself to cannibalize. Plus, Su Jie had poisonous insects and the ghost bride to protect him, as well as various spells and the purple cloud heavenly thunder. It wouldn't be easy for anyone to approach him. Su Jie approached Elder Tang Peiqing with this topic not because he wanted to learn the technique himself, but to prepare for the upcoming war on Blue Star. Elder Tang Peiqing glanced at Su Jie, understanding his concerns. There were quite a few demon cultivators in Ghost Ridge Palace who shared such thoughts. A few could be decisive killers, but not everyone could stomach consuming their own kind. Of course, even so, it didn't stop them from killing others. Do you know what spiritual quality is? I don't. This was the first time Su Jie had heard of such a concept. Every person's spiritual quality is different. The human worm refining technique allows one to devour others' spiritual quality and transform it for combination, gaining better compatibility with one's life-bound poisonous insect. Elder Tang Peiqing, with his wealth of experience and deep knowledge within the Ghost Ridge Palace, easily clarified Su Jie's confusion with some simple pointers. To Su Jie's own understanding, so-called spiritual quality might be something similar to genes. Every Gu master who advances to the secret realm will find that the ability to modify and enhance poisonous insects essentially stems from the insect's own suitability for modification, with their extraordinarily strong evolutionary bodies that only require spirit stones to undergo rapid metamorphosis. Su Jie understood that Tang Peiqing was referring to the extraordinary developmental capability of the poisonous insects, a trait that human bodies do not possess. Take the butterfly, for example. After hatching from the egg into a tiny caterpillar, it begins to feed nonstop. In just a few weeks, the larva can increase its weight by 100 times and completely change its form through pupation, emerging as a butterfly. It would be impossible for humans to possess such a frightening rate of abnormal development. But that doesn't mean we can't achieve this kind of ability. Tang Peiqing paused, then changed the subject, sparking Su Jie's interest. Is there a way? Of course, there is a way, but the cost is even greater. Tang Peiqing stretched out his left hand and then took out a low-grade second refinement green scale worm and a large number of spirit stones. Bang! The green scale worm was slapped to death, and it seemed as if Tang Peiqing extracted something from it, absorbing it into his palm, then placing his palm over the pile of mid-grade spirit stones, drawing the boundless spiritual power from them. Visible to the naked eye, the massive amount of spiritual power contained within the spirit stones was sucked into his arm, causing Tang Peiqing's arm to undergo drastic changes. His palm thickened and enlarged, his nails became sharp as razors, his arm grew thicker than an elephant's leg, and it sprouted dense scales. Once those spirit stones were depleted, Tang Peiqing's left hand had transformed into a 2-meter-long limb, wrapped with blood-red patterns. With a simple wave, the arm smashed through the floor, crushing steel as if it were kneading clay, inheriting the green scale worm's qualities of increased defense and strength. Do you understand? This technique is called Insect Transformation Manual. In plants, there's a method of grafting, where a bud or branch of one plant is joined onto another, resulting in the two parts growing into a complete plant. Similarly, I have grafted the spiritual quality of the green scale worm onto my arm, and then used the technique for strengthening poisonous insects to transform my arm into what it is now, having inherited the powerful abilities of the green scale worm. Incredible! But if this insect transformation manual is so powerful, why haven't I heard of you using it much, Elder Tang? Inheriting the abilities of some powerful poisonous insects would be extremely formidable, wouldn't it? Su Jie's face showed his amazement. It was no wonder that Elder Tang was one of the most experienced elders in Ghost Ridge Palace. He knew so much. It's not as simple as you think. You should have discovered when you modify and enhance poisonous insects yourself that the more powerful the poisonous insect is, the more spirit stones it requires for modification. Moreover, not just any poisonous insect spiritual quality is compatible for grafting. It depends on the compatibility. Also, because of the body's rejection reaction, you need to use spirit stones to absorb spiritual power periodically, or else this will happen. Tang Peiqing looked at his arm, which, robust as an elephant's leg, slowly shrank and withered until he simply twisted and broke it off. A new arm writhed on his shoulder, slowly growing out. The most important reason is that grafting the spiritual quality of overly powerful poisonous insects depends on your physical strength. If your body is not strong enough, forcibly grafting the spiritual quality of 6th and 7th refinement poisonous insects will only cause your own spiritual quality to be contaminated and disintegrate, leading to the collapse of your body and death. Tang Peiqing pointed to the severed arm on the ground and explained, grafting the power of strong poisonous insects consumes too much in spirit stones and requires continuous supply. If you opt for grafting the spiritual quality of weaker insects, the increase in combat prowess is minimal, offering little utility. On the other hand, grafting the spiritual quality of an insect far beyond your own bodily limits could cause your body to collapse, preventing you from gaining an advanced combat advantage. Simply put, it comes down to not having enough money. That's right, in this world, many problems can be traced back to money. Elder Tang, looking as if he had found a promising student, laughed heartily as he stroked his beard and continued, I did pass on the insect transformation manual to quite a few people, but now, within our sect, the number of demon cultivators using this technique is extremely scarce. Because compared to the ability of a Gu master to inherit the powers of a life-bound poisonous insect and the strength of the human worm refining technique, the insect transformation manual doesn't offer any significant advantage. The only thing that's not bad about it is that its grafting ability isn't limited just to the life-bound poisonous insect. Instead, it can consider a wide variety of strange and unusual poisonous insects. Even if there is compatibility, the variety of poisonous insects that can be expanded upon is still much richer. But in the end, because it consumes too many spirit stones, it becomes all show and no substance, far less straightforward, practical, and economical than the human insect sacrifice. Elder Tang, could you teach me this cultivation technique? Su Jie, however, lit up at hearing this. He didn't plan to use this technique himself but considered it for his ordinary soldiers. His concept of transforming the biochemical troops could now be put on the schedule right away. After all, ordinary soldiers don't require poisonous insects of high spiritual quality. They aren't facing cultivators, just ordinary humans. The spiritual quality extracted from common insects on Blue Star is more than enough. In this way, the financial burden on Su Jie wouldn't be too heavy, and he could also acquire a powerful force of transformed persons, advancing beyond the foundation of the steel camp. There's no problem in teaching you, but are you sure you really want to learn this? I see that your thousand-hand centipede is already at mid-grade 5 refinement. The inherited ability of your life-bound poisonous insect must be quite good. There's no need to be overly greedy. Elder Tang, I want to compensate for my close combat deficiencies and plan to graft. Whatever the toll on spirit stones, I'll accept it. All right then, as long as you have your own ideas about it. Hearing this, Elder Tang didn't try to dissuade him any further, and instead took a jade scroll from his bosom. This is the scripture for the Insect Transformation Manual. You should study it when you return. The difficulty of learning isn't high, and with your aptitude, there shouldn't be a problem. Thank you, Elder Tang. Su Jie jubilantly accepted it. Indeed, Taoist Chiu was right. There was good stuff to be found with Elder Tang, and this cultivation technique perfectly suited Su Jie's needs. Don't place too much hope in this cultivation technique. If you truly want to make up for close combat deficiencies, it would be better to practice human worm refining technique. At most, you would just be conflicted at the beginning. We demon cultivators should not be troubled by such trifles. Elder Tang, unaware of why Su Jie was so pleased, couldn't help but speak out, fearing that Su Jie would recklessly graft too powerful poisonous insect spiritual quality without considering the risks. Even Elder Tang, who created the Insect Transformation Manual, had not continued to practice it himself, which shows that such a technique has its flaws and isn't as practical as the ancestral magic skill of the human worm refining technique. Elder Tang, don't worry about me. I'll be careful in my cultivation, Su Jie said with a smile, waving his hand and walking out of Elder Tang's house, eager to go back and start his experiments.